pledge allegiance.
This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its meeting held on January 6, 2015. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona City Road Times, the Star Ledger, the Herald News, the Township of Verona, and the Verona Education Association. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted in each of Verona's 6 schools, the board office, and town hall. This posting was also sent to the newspapers, all SCA presidents, and SCA liaisons. The Verona Board of Education operates under a consent agenda format. Any board member has a right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public present. Mr. Day?
Here.
Mrs. Fresky? Here. Mr. Yunus?
Here.
Mr. Bellino?
Here.
Mr. Quattro Jr.
Here. Okay, welcome to our January 27th meeting, about a week late. So we have 2 presentations tonight. One is our annual audit report, which is incredibly riveting and detailed. So we're going to save that for last, and we're going to have our students from FN Brown. Don't take that to the auditors, don't take that personal. We're going to have our students from FN Brown here with Dr. Lanzo and Mr. Wagel talk about conflict resolution and peer mediation. We're going to do that first. But before we do that, are there any questions about any of the agenda items on tonight's agenda? No? Okay. Dr. Lanzo.
I'm confident we're excited in that audit report. So, good evening, Dr. Lanzo, FN Brown, principal. Very excited. We're here tonight, FN Brown students and families, to talk about the great things that we're doing at Brown. And one of those great things is our focus on character education, conflict resolution in particular. A couple of years ago, we formed a committee, Character Education Committee, and we had an opportunity to attend training sessions sponsored by the New Jersey State Bar Foundation. And then in turn, we came back and terminated it for our staff. And over the last year and a half, they've been terminated for the students. So we have a few staff members that are going to share mini testimonials about our program, and then we have our students that will give you an overview of the win-win guidelines, and they will also perform 2 skits. And we'll tell you a little bit about those skits in a moment. But I'd like to acknowledge the committee. We have Mrs. Collins, grade 1 teacher, Mr. Wabel, grade 4, Mrs. Tully, our learning consultant, Ms. Witter, our world language teacher, Mr. Hill, phys ed and health, and also Mrs. Force, one of our 4th grade teachers, is joining us tonight as well, since it's our 4th graders presenting. Our committee goes above and beyond their dedication and also the amount of hours that they put into this initiative. Before school, during school, after school, their commitment is unbelievable. So I'd like to applaud their effort, because they're putting in a lot of time, which is absolutely priceless for our students and for our school. So. So at this time, I'm going to call up Mrs. Tully, who's our learning consultant, but she's also an anti-bullying specialist.
Good evening, everyone. After the anti-bullying Bill of Rights legislation was enacted in August of 2011, we had several cases to investigate of accused bullying at FN Brown. Following the investigations as the anti-bullying specialist, we reviewed the cases with the school safety team and noticed the trend of the majority of the cases being conflict and not meeting the state definition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. At that point, the recommendation was made with Dr. Lanzo to form the Character Education Committee, and we began our training with the State Bar Foundation on conflict resolution and peer mediation. Since that time, we turnkeyed the information to all school staff with student contact, including classroom teachers, specialists, special services personnel, office and custodial staff, and lunch aides. And everyone is now very well versed in differentiating between bullying and conflict. Everyone knows that a case of alleged suspected bullying is immediately referred to an adult. A victim and a target and an accused bully are never put together to re-victimize the person. But now the children and the staff all know when it is conflict and how to resolve it on their own. We start with our little list of kindergartners, and we work on strategies on how to calm down and then talk to each other and get both of their feelings out, listen to each other, do reflective and active listening, and then follow the win-win guidelines to try to resolve the conflict first before they call an adult in to help. So right now I'm going to ask Mr. Rabel to introduce the fourth graders and show us how we implement that in school.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that our fourth graders were selected because they exhibited some really great characteristics for conflict resolution program and character program. They volunteered, and what they did is they met during class, and they also agreed to make up any work they missed during class. So I just wanted to applaud them all for that. Fourth graders, if you please stand as I call your name, so the Board of Education can see a name and face. We have Natalie Ocurdo, Emily Kruger, Michael Krusnes, Andrew Boyle, Sarah Wynn, Andrew Aramita, and Kyla Potter. One of the elements that's key to our character education program, our conflict resolution program, is something we call the win-win guidelines. And I'd like to invite Emily Kruger and Natalie Ocurdo up front to explain to you what they are.
As the students come on up here, if parents and others, you can come up to the front here. Just don't stand right in front of the TV camera. If you get a better shot up this way rather than you're sitting this time. All right, who's first? If anybody has a complaint about the schools, you just take care of it.
We would like to share the win-win guidelines that help our school resolve conflicts peacefully. Take time to cool off if needed. You might need to count to 10, go for a short walk, or take some deep breaths. Use I messages. Each person states their feelings and the problem as they see it. There should be no blaming, no name-calling, and no interrupting. Repeat back. Each person should state the problem as the other person sees it.
Take responsibility. Each person says how they're responsible for the problem. Brainstorm solutions. Talk together about possible solutions and choose one that satisfies both people. That's called a win-win solution. Affirmation. Before you leave, make sure to affirm, forgive, or thank your partner.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Anna Collins. I teach first grade at Verona. I'm not the veteran teacher here tonight. My friend Mary, of course, is. So she's been teaching longer than I have. Anyway, I'm very, very excited to be a part of this team that I'm on, the conflict resolution team. I actually asked Dr. Lanzo if I could be a part of the team. He mentioned the word, to me, character education, and that's all I had to say. Because to me, that's the most important thing. Before you can really teach a child anything about learning to read and write, you need to know who you are on the inside. So I was extremely excited to be a part of the team. I'm proud to be a part of the team for a couple of reasons. I'm passionate about it, so are the team members. We're all dedicated, like Dr. Winter just said, very dedicated to this program. Committed to find each child's strengths and to find their inner character. This particular initiative, for me, is the one that has made the most impact on my life. Not only in school as a teacher, but also at home in my own home life with my daughter and with my husband. It has also affected every student at F.N. Brown School. And actually every custodian, every lunch aide, every teacher aide, administrative assistants and administrators have all been trained in conflict resolution. So if you see something going on in our building that doesn't look like it fits our climate and our culture of our building anymore, everyone will stop and say what's going on. No one turns away, no one looks away, we all are involved members. It's a program that unites Effingham Brown, and it actually makes me feel like Effingham Brown's a little bit set apart from all the other schools at this point, but I think they're all buying into it, so we have future to look forward to. It's a program that, again, teaches what is character, what are good character traits. And to me, the reason I really wanted to be on this committee is because I wanted every student to know that your character is what you do when no one is watching you. It's not what you do when they're watching you. So for me, that was the pivotal point for me to join this committee. It's been 3 years, and I don't know how many more years I will be teaching, but hopefully this will continue forever. Simply, this is a character education program that has changed the climate and the culture of Effingham Brown. It encourages all the students to release slowly their dependence upon the teachers and become more independent on solving their own conflicts. And in turn, what it does for me and what it does for all teachers is it gives us the time that we need to teach, because there are no more interruptions about conflicts. Because the students will say to you, I need to go to the peace place. They solve their own conflicts using the proper tools and the proper language, which took 3 years. So basically, I want to just say I'm so proud to be a part of this, and I love my team, and I look forward to the next step, which is peer mediation. Thank you so much. I'd like Andrew Boyle to come up.
Conflicts are part of everyday life. Michael Cruzes and Kyla Pavia from Mr. Wiggles' class will be acting as an example of what could really happen without any conflict resolution training. Please allow me to set the scene. Kyla and Michael are working on a group project. Kyla hasn't brought the materials she's responsible for. Now the project might have to be turned in late. Let's watch to see how it unfolds.
I can't believe you forgot about our project.
What do you mean?
We were supposed to meet and finish our project today. Now it's going to be late, and it's all your fault.
Fine. You know what? I'm going to do my own report. I wouldn't want to work with a drunk like you. You can do all your stuff.
Start over? No way.
Mr. Wainwright!
What you just witnessed is something that we commonly call a lose-lose scenario, and they did a great job. And unfortunately, it's exactly what we don't want our students to do, but we wanted to give you that example so you had a great mental picture. Let me outline some of the things where they fell short. First off, Michael didn't cool down. He went into the situation and used a you message. He went in angry. And as a result, Kyla felt attacked. Right? It's your fault. So naturally, any of us who feel attacked, we may attack back. And in this case, what Kyla ended up doing was using a name, no name calling. So what happened was our problem started to escalate. It got worse. Kyla said, Michael, you're a drunk. And again, our problem escalates. We're not getting any closer to the resolution, we're getting further away. So what we needed to do was, in the end, they both felt helpless. They both called out teacher's name. In this case, it was my name. They're both my students. Although teacher involvement is perfectly acceptable in our conflict resolution program, one of the things I feel very strongly about, and I know our committee members do as well, is that in addition to all the state standards that we're required to teach, one of the things as a parent of 4 children, all under 9, I feel just as important about is teaching them life skills. So in addition to all the state standards which we include, I feel I'm most successful when my students leave my classroom and they have an idea of self-confidence, self-awareness, and independence. Not only solving problems, but conflicts as well. So where are we? We need to teach them the strategies and the tools of how to solve this independently. Our goal, and what we've learned through various workshops, is most common conflicts, whether it's in marriage, at home, or at school, can be solved independently without anyone's help. what I would like to do is invite Andy back up, and we're going to go through another situation which we call win-win. And these are with the strategies of win-win guidelines implemented, in which many of our classrooms are occurring on an everyday basis. Michael and Kyler, excellent job. Andrew Reynolds back up, he's going to be our narrator, and we're going to have Sarah Wynn and Andrew Aramita act out win-win scenario.
Take time to cool off if needed. You might need to count to 10, go for a short walk, or take some deep breaths.
You didn't bring in your homework?
Use iMessages. Each person states the feelings and the problem as they see it. There should be no blaming, no name calling, and no interrupting. In this case, Sarah needs to use an iMessage.
Andrew, can I talk to you? I feel frustrated that you didn't bring me part of the report because now I was relying on you. Now we cannot complete our report and our grade might suffer. Next time, I need you to come prepared.
Repeat back. State the problem as the other person sees it.
I understand you're upset with me because I didn't do my part of the report, and now we can't finish.
That's right, I really wanted to finish the report today.
Take responsibility. Each person says how they're responsible for the problem.
Sarah, I'm sorry I wasn't ready. I know I let you down.
You know, I should have called you to remind you you were meeting today.
Brainstorm solutions. Talk together about possible solutions and choose one that satisfies both people. That's called a win-win solution.
Well, we're here now. Let's make the best of it.
Why don't we reread what we have and practice the parts already done?
Sounds like a great idea.
Affirmation. Before you leave, make sure you affirm, forgive, or thank your partner.
Thanks for being so cool and not yelling at me. I'll make sure my part is ready by tomorrow.
No problem. I forgive you. I just wanted to do our best and get a magnificent grade.
Those are with win-win guidelines at work. Both parties found a solution that worked and made them happy. We hope that this conflict resolution continues.
I'd like to introduce Mrs. Force, who is a very proud fourth grade teacher at FM Brown. She's been teaching there for many years. She's an FM Brown icon, legend. We're the FM Brown Bees, and we refer to her as the Queen Bee. It's always funny at back to school night when she greets parents, and she points out to the parents where they sat in her classroom when they had her as a student. So Mrs. Force, again, is a trailblazer and a legend, and she insisted on sharing a few words tonight, which we're very excited. Very excited.
I have a little bit of laryngitis, so just forgive me a little bit. Yes. Just a moment. Okay. Yes, I've been at FM Brown, part of the school system for 38 years. I really could not be any prouder of being in Verona, and they just bring tears to my eyes when I see them up here. Every year when I work with my kids, always excited to see what they're learning, how they're progressing. And again, I've had students in my class that I have their children, and so I get to see them in a whole different light as well. I've been in the same classroom too, by the way. So I get to look out in that room every single day. I see the high school, I see the beautiful trees when they bloom, and I always look forward to it every single year. FM Brown, honestly, is one of the most special, really unique schools, and it has really been a privilege for me to be part of it. Also a privilege and very, very excited to experience and see how this particular program, so powerful, seriously, so powerful, to see it in action and how it really impacts our students in an unbelievable. we all have our little peace places in our classroom. It's very funny because for years, mine is like in my hallway, so right outside my door, right? What's there? What does it say, Mrs. Forces? My office. So when I tell them I see me in my office, they know I have to say you're not in trouble, right? Just to let you know, okay, I just want to see you out there. But at this point, they will go out in my office if there's a conflict. They ask, hey, I need to see another student. We'll go out there, work through their problems, tell everyone else how they feel, express their feelings, express their concerns to each other. So it's something that I witness kids initiating their own conversations with each other and use the strategies that we teach them and actually use them in everyday life. And somebody said lifelong skills. It really is. I looked up, I was on the computer and I typed in conflict resolution, and it all dealt with adults in the workplace. And it's how, right? And how adults have to deal with each other in the workplace. I have to deal with teachers all the time. So I have to really work on resolving lots of conflicts. Oh, sorry. But just so you know, this would not take place though without the passion of Dr. Lanza. And I was doing an activity the other day with one of the kids. I don't know if you guys were listening. I hope you were. But somebody said, oh, we were talking about an activity that we were going to do for the week, and one of the students said, oh, Dr. Lanza really loves us doing this. And they brought it to my attention, and I said, yes, he's extremely passionate about it, and he has inspired us, the staff, and the students at FM Brown, and instill all of these skills into us as well. So I think we need to give him a round of applause. My colleagues with the committee, unbelievable, hours and hours, and my hat's off to them. I wish I really were as good as they are in doing all this and putting this together. And we did ask the students what conflict meant to them, and I thought this was really cool. Keeping friends, right? Solving a conflict on your own without us, but we're always there to guide them every step of the way. In order to feel more mature without, us helping them, the adults, because that's always, they count on us to help them, teachers as well as parents, and that's what we're there to do. And it's not that we don't, we just kind of let them, deal with it a little bit more on their own, which is what this program is teaching them to do. And one other, resolve conflicts without being physical contact with each other. So I'm so excited to be part of this. Maybe I'll be here another 2 years, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm so excited that I was able to spend 38 years and now get to experience working with this program. And you guys are so awesome.
All right. Our program, it's been a privilege to be a part of from the get-go. As all of my committee members have stated, and our students did a fantastic job demonstrating to you how this works. It's really, it's what school should be all about. It really is. And again, so proud to be a part of it. Proud to watch you do what you did. Fantastic. The next phase of our program and where this is going is we're going to be implementing, starting in the spring, a peer mediation program. And as a committee, we were fortunate enough this past year, we were able to go and observe the peer mediation program in action over at South Boynton School in South Orange, Maplewood. They were gracious enough to have us. We learned a lot, took a lot away from it. And we've really been implementing this program piece by piece, very systematically, to have everyone buy in and we don't want to make any mistakes, we want to do it properly. And so the next step and the goal of peer mediation is to help continue to have our school become a more healthy, positive, and safe learning environment, which really empowers our students to manage conflict, transform relationships, and enhance their school climate. And Senior Rita Witter is going to come up here and explain a little bit more about that.
Our next step with the peer mediation program will be choosing 3rd and 4th graders to be peer mediators who will be specially trained to help their peers resolve conflicts during lunch and recess and kindergarten center time in a peaceful way. Student mediators help peers resolve conflicts when they need assistance utilizing the conflict resolution principles that they have learned at FM Brown. Students first try to use the win-win guidelines on their own. If they are unsuccessful on their own, the next step would be to seek out a trained peer mediator who will help them resolve the problem. Lunch aides and teachers will still be available for consultation for more challenging situations that require adult guidance. Students seek out peer mediators to resolve conflicts, and then students seek out teachers for assistance with bullying, and that's something that we want to help them distinguish when to go to a peer mediator, when to go to a lunch aide or a teacher. But peer mediators will be there to assist them with conflict, and the lunch aides with more serious issues with the bullying. Thank you.
In closing, I shared homeschool connections, which I passed out, and we talked about how do we partner with the parents. So we developed homeschool connections. They're school-based, they're homegrown. The committee develops them. We're inspired by our students and real-life conflicts that happen in our building, and then we build on those. So we send them home for a few reasons. One, to reinforce what we're doing in school, and to communicate to our parents the focus for the week. Two, it sends a message to students that we're a partnership, home and school, that we're working together. And three, it helps our parents use the same language and skills as we're using in school. So we have a consistent language in the school and also at home. And several parents have approached me, and they'll share with me that the homeschool connection, the focus of the week, has been part of their dinner talk, and that it's helped resolve problems, in the home, conflicts and so forth. And we chuckle about it, but I'll use iMessages and the win-win guidelines in my own life, as the committee shared our real life. So I'd like to particularly thank our FM Brown parents for taking the time tonight to bring their child and be flexible with the postponement of last week to this week. And our students not only practice in school, but they practice a lot at home, and they did an excellent job. So a round of applause again for the children. Also for the parents supporting us, and again for the community. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you're doing at FM Brown. Again, their passion is unbelievable, and their hearts, they wear on their sleeve for the children every day. So thank you again.
I'd just like to thank Dr. Lanzo and FN Brown staff and all the students for coming out, and the parents tonight for coming out. Students, you did a wonderful job. We're very happy to have you here, and it's wonderful to see that your teachers are helping you learn life skills that extend well beyond the classroom. So another round of applause for these students. And your staff.
I'm going to take the win-win. You may need it. I'm going to take the work tomorrow. And so on the top I wrote fourth graders. Right, and by 7:30 or 7:45 tomorrow morning, somebody will be reading this and say, oh yeah. All right, you guys did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming out. You did a phenomenal job, and you are off to great places. You really are.
And I might need the committee to help me find my own peace place, because I know I need that at home, and that too. So thank you very much. You did a great job.
Okay, we're going to, for those of you who need to leave before Mr. Vinci comes on up here and goes to the audit, because we need to give him our attention on that. So if you want to take a moment, we'll take a quick break, and you guys can get on home and catch up with all the schoolwork that you guys do.
Thank you.
all these things, and then I'll drop off the people tomorrow. I don't know Wednesday. But it'll be on YouTube. About it tomorrow. You're welcome.
Mr. Gary Vinci from our auditing firm, our Lord Vinci and Higgins, go through our annual report and findings.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a very tough act to follow. I think the FN Brown School Administration, teachers, and especially students should be commended. They did a fantastic job. I may need that too. The report that we have provided to the school is actually for the 13-14 school year. Several weeks ago, we met with the Finance Committee and the school administration to review the two documents. One is a financial summary, and the second is a report of audit recommendations. From a financial perspective, I think what's most important is the fact that as independent auditors, the opinion that we render on their financial statements is of utmost importance. That opinion was an unmodified opinion, which means that the testing that we performed as a result of the audit all came back positive. And that's very, very important for the integrity of the financial condition of the district. So it's the highest rating of an opinion that you can receive as a government entity. From a financial perspective, the surplus of the board at the end of June, from when you look at unassigned surplus, was just over $600,000, slightly more than the prior year, and that's the maximum that you're allowed to have based on the state formula. Any surplus over and above that goes back to the taxpayers as tax relief, and that amount of money that was set aside was about $250,000. So that $250,000, which was not in the number that I mentioned at $600,000, will be used in the 15-16 school budget as tax relief. Keep in mind also that deals with your general fund. The operating account does not include the capital projects fund, which is where your transactions of the school referendum that was approved last year will take place. So there's significant balances left in that project. Obviously, we've just started some of the groundwork on that. The professional fees are probably at the end cost we've incurred, so there's about $16 million set aside for the balance of the projects that the voters did approve. From a compliance and financial testing perspective, we have two minor recommendations which are in the management report. The first dealt with the coding of expenditures. We just noted that in certain situations the expense accounts were miscoded. The expense was reported, but the budgetary account, based on the state guidelines, required that those expenses be charged to other accounts. And the second recommendation dealt with the flexible spending account that the school maintains. And I think Cheryl, the school business administrator, has been working with the third-party administrator to provide the documents so that the school has the detail on a monthly basis. We just didn't see that detail last year as part of the 13-14 audit. Those were actually the only two recommendations we had. Very minor, very insignificant. If there are any questions on the financials, be happy to entertain.
So on those two, so there are two corrective actions. One is on the coding. So what was the degree that we had an issue with the coding? Was it few and far between? Was it?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
For like a degree of magnitude.
It was less than 1%. So the issue from our perspective is that the state requires us to disclose that because certain calculations that the state uses, such as the administrative cost allocation, may have an impact on some of those miscodings. Exactly.
Right. And did we correct those for the year past?
We talked about looking at the 14-15 budget to make sure that the budget is correctly reported as well as the expenses for this year. So I'm not sure how far Cheryl was able to get.
But we should have that. That's sorted out. And the same with the other one, on the flexible spending account. So what is that documentation to support the flexible spending account by third-party administrator? Does that mean, is that a performance statement?
A statement as well as the detail that's on file with the employees, on file with the third-party administrators. Right. We just didn't see a detail that's listed the employees, the balance that they had left in their flexible spending account. Correct.
And that's something that's standard.
Yes. Yes, and I think Cheryl has been in contact with them this year.
And just one other quick question. On the in the main book, there's I folded the page. There's a bit in here about managerial recommendation, and I wasn't sure what that.
Suggestions?
Yeah.
To management?
And there were two. It's the second suggestion.
Yeah, it's in the smaller document. It's actually on page 6. Those are suggestions where the board actually does not need to have a formal corrective action.
Okay, so my question is specific on this. A formal board policy be developed regarding the use of store procurement cards. What is that?
So if you're using a card, say at Staples, if you're running for supplies with some kind of emergent matter, just so that there is an internal policy as to who is allowed to have it. Is there a maximum dollar amount tied into that type of card?
Okay.
And again, it's not that it was used that frequently, but we've seen it in more and more districts this year that they're resorting to store procurement cards.
Right, there's a limit for
Mhm.
the benign stuff, just to take care of.
Yes.
That's just the finance committee. Any questions from anyone else? No? All right.
The only thing that I can add, as being a member of the Finance Committee for 12 years in a row, is that this is the fewest recommendations that we've had. So obviously, taking care of some things that have been hanging over from the tough recommendations we've seen a couple times. And so I can say that we're moving right along in the right direction.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's do the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. A few items to discuss tonight. First of all, I'd just like to pay compliments to the Verona custodial and maintenance staff and also the Verona Public Works. With the snow last week and again, most recently, they did an outstanding job. It never ceases to amaze me. You go through the Verona streets and they're immaculate. The schools are they put out, which allows us to get the students safely into school. So just want to acknowledge them publicly. They do a tremendous job, and we're very, very fortunate to have them working in our favor. So secondly, we have our Board of Education meetings. Tonight's meeting is obviously rescheduled from January 27th. So there's a slight modification for the February meetings that we would just like to make everyone aware of, and we will be adjusting those on the district website. So next week's meeting on February 10th will be canceled, and our next meeting for February will be on February 24th. So canceling February 10th, and our final meeting of the month will be on February 24th. Our district fact book has been completed. That will be posted on the district website by the end of this week, finalizing a few more details on that, and we will be briefly presenting the context of the district fact book at the February 24th meeting. Parent Park Night, we have information sessions on Common Core and the new park assessment. So some information went out several weeks ago regarding some information sessions that we're going to have to educate parents, have them ask any questions that they may have, and it's more of an informative session. We have 3 dates that are set. We'll also continue to publicize them on our district website. HBW for middle school students and for the middle school parents will be on Tuesday, February 10th at 7 p.m. That will be at HBW. Verona High School will have their information session on Wednesday, February 11th, and that's at 7 p.m. at Verona High School. And last but not least, our elementary schools will all be one evening, Thursday, February 19th at 7 p.m., also at Verona High School, and that's open to all parents. Along the lines of park, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, started receiving some more concerns from parents with everything that's going on in the community around park. This has been going on for several months, but as we get closer and closer to the test, more and more concern and anxiety and questions regarding, well, what's it going to look like? In the next couple of days, we will have the park schedule for the testing for each school that will be released. That will be going out by the principals to each school of all the parents, just as we did with the NJS and with the HESPA schedule in the past. More recently, I started getting questions regarding concern around wanting to opt out, parent refusal for their children, and trying to answer those questions in regards to the advisement that we've received from the Department of Education, from our board attorney, from New Jersey school boards, NJPSA, all along the lines of what the law reads and what the obligations are of the Board of Education, superintendent, district administration, and the requirements for state assessment. More recently, I started hearing from some parents who reached out to me and wanted to know, because they started hearing in the community about this quote-unquote sit and stare policy that people are starting to talk about, not only in Verona, but in also other communities. So it's something that's really out there. I know a lot of it's in the newspaper, a lot of it's on social media. So I'll address that momentarily as I kind of go through the entire process and give everyone some information in regards to where we've been and where we are now, and how some of it's similar and some of it's different with the new park assessment. So as many of you know, public school districts in New Jersey have been testing since 2001. Prior to testing for park, which is the new assessment that comes in this year, New Jersey has tested with grades 3 through 8 in the NJS, and grade 11 was the HESPA. State assessments are required in New Jersey by state and federal law, and the park assessment will now replace the NJS and the HESPA, and it will be testing students from grades 3 through 11. The park assessment assesses student mastery around the Common Core curriculum, and the Common Core curriculum is also state mandated, and that curriculum is, those standards are what our district curriculum has been aligned to, and that's what our students are learning each and every day at each and every grade level, and the park assessment is intended to assess mastery of that. We've talked about it at numerous meetings I've shared with parents. Off the top of my head, there are 3 advantages to having state assessments, to having assessments of any kind, taking a look at detail of individual students and how they're doing, so that way we have a barometer and we can see how we can intervene and we can help support that student. The second point would be in order to make sure that we're taking a look at how, for example, this year's 7th grade has done relative to the past 5 years. How are we doing compared to assessing and monitoring the growth and how we're doing as educators in delivering that curriculum to our students. And last but not least, taking a look to see how our students as a grade level are doing relative to our comparative groups. Probably seen previous board presentations where we've done to show, how do our students at Verona High School do compared to other similar socioeconomic and size type schools, to see how we're doing relative to teaching the curriculum. We've received advisement around the law from the state, from our attorneys. There is no opt-out that is permitted. And the advisement has also been not to adopt a resolution around a test refusal. So those 2 things do not exist. The ARC schedule will be released, we expect, by either the end of this week or by the beginning of next week. So parents will have an understanding of when their child will be testing. You'll know specifically what the day is, and if it's in the morning or if it's in the afternoon. And when students are not testing, then they'll be in regular class for classroom instruction with their teacher. In regard to parents who have contacted me regarding refusal for their children to take the test, I've encouraged them and advised them to reach out to their building principal, because I think it's important for parents to share those concerns at the building base. Your principal and the teachers know you and your family best, so it's important for them to know the perspective that you're coming from. But what people also need to understand is that the Board of Education, myself as superintendent, the principals, teachers, we are still required to administer the test under state and federal law. However, what we will also be saying to all of our students, and this is what's slightly different than what the NJS was. With the NJS, students were not permitted most recently to do any reading of any sort once they took the test. So after taking the NJS, they would have to sit there and they could not read or do any other kind of work. With the PARC assessment, it's slightly different because they're encouraging, the State Department of Education is encouraging school districts to make sure that students have reading material. So if a student is taking a test, once they're done with the test, that 40-minute section, what's hypothetically said, they can use the remainder of the time to continue working and reading on their choice book on their grade level. If a student refuses to take the test while they're in the testing location, the whole sit and stare piece that's out there right now, we're not quite sure where that originated from, but Verona has never been in a position to make kids sit and stare. We're not a district that is punitive. We embrace our students, we support our students. So if a student is sitting in the testing site and they're refusing to take the test, or if the parent has communicated that to the principal, students will have the books there in that testing site location, and they will be able to read their book just as students will be able to read the book if they're done testing earlier than the allotted amount of time. And we continue to wait for more direction from the state. Some of you may know that there is an assembly bill that's located out there. One of the assemblymen has presented it most recently in regards to an opt-out. Right now, there's no opt-out on the law, and we continue to get our direction from the State Department of Education. Thank you.
Any questions?
The only question I have is, the question that I've been asked and I haven't been able to answer is that what are the results, what is going to be the effect of the result in terms of placement? Can you address that in any way?
The results of the test?
Yes.
In terms of how it affects how students are placed in Verona in subsequent classes?
Yeah. So Verona has no intention of using these test results. It's a barometer for us to always be able to take a look at NJS scores or HESPA scores as one indicator to see, but we recognize in Verona that there are so many different pieces that go into a child and their learning. The teacher who's with that child 180 days a year, other assessments that are used in the classroom, programs like character education that we just saw tonight and conflict resolution. So that's one additional piece, but there's no intention of utilizing the standardized test results for placement or any other kinds of programs or placement in Verona.
Well, is that a departure from what we've been doing? Because I've been told that in the past we have used the AS test in terms of MAC placement and things like that.
In the past, NJS has been used. It's never solely used as the only indicator for any piece. That wouldn't be a fair practice to utilize in order to take a look at comprehensively how a child is doing. But because the PARC assessment is brand new and we have no baseline on it, and this is all going to be new for everyone, right now we're not having any intention of utilizing it for any sort of placement.
Where will the test be administered in the elementary schools or any of the schools?
So the elementary schools testing will be located in the computer labs. Each of the elementary schools has one computer lab. We will also have Google Chromebooks that are actually just started coming in this week. So we will also be utilizing those in alternate site location for students that will be testing. In the middle school, we will have Chromebooks will be designated to specific locations for testing there. Middle school testing will be by grade level, as will high school, grades 9 to 11 in the high school. So in the elementary school, it's on a lot smaller scale because it will be located based on a specific third grade teacher who will test, let's say, for example, hypothetically, Tuesday morning. So a specific third grade teacher will have testing for one part of the PARC assessment. In the morning, once testing is done, students will go back to class with the teacher, and then they will continue throughout the course of the day. And in the afternoon that day, it will be a different set of students in a different class, because different districts are handling things a little differently. Some districts are, for example, I've heard some districts testing high school kids for the full day, 7 hours of testing. We're not doing that. We're moving in an opposite direction. We're doing it in much smaller chunks so it's less disruptive, and that any results that come from testing are more reliable, and we want to make sure that the students are going to be comfortable and be able to do testing within, say, an hour and a half or so, and then move on to their regular course of study for the rest of the day.
Have they given us any indication as to when the test results will be provided to the district?
Yes. As of right now, the State Department of Education has advised superintendents that not to expect the results in the first year until sometime in October 2015. And the rationale that they gave for that was that in its first year, they have to get a baseline and norm the results comparative to other states. So since there are approximately 10 states involved in PARC right now, and there's another consortium called Smarter Balance, with 20 some odd states, I believe it's 22, they need to do a baseline and norm it. And then they expect that in 2016, that the results will come in at some point in August, and then the following year, the goal is to be able to get those results to the school districts before the end of June, so that way those results are in school districts' hands, so that way they have relevant data rather than data coming in the following year and then not being able to really do anything with it. We've held a position where we're not doing anything with it this year, so whether it comes in August, October, or December, we'll take a look at it then at that point and see how we do compared to other school districts that are similar to us in size and socioeconomics, our comparative group that we utilize in.
Well, that's almost a guarantee that they're not going to be used for any test placement. Certainly not in the first year.
They will not be used for any class
They're not going to get the results.
No.
So we wouldn't use them, we weren't going to use them
We
anyway.
weren't going to use them anyway, but
Because
if
it's
somebody says, well, I don't believe that we're not going to get the results until October anyway.
Well, if somebody says they don't believe you, just do the point one, they're not going to use them.
It just math baffles me that we try to automate the test so we get the answers, the information quicker, and it takes longer than it does when we're doing the MZS and HESTA test.
Yeah, so we talked about that in committee, and with the states, there's two reasons for that. One reason is that not only the state of New Jersey, but the states that are administering the PARC need to, what we used to call curve the test. They recognize they need to equalize what the results mean. They don't know what to expect from the results, other than what everyone anticipates to happen. There's a very high degree of variability of how students perform. They need to figure out what that all means before they start giving it. But they want to avoid what happened in New York, where it looks like everybody did horribly on the test, and then equalize the fact that it's probably an unfair test to begin with. And that's what's going to take.
I'm trying to show us a bell curve, and I guess that's what I'm trying.
Well, they need to what they call it is equalize the test, which is it's a brand new test. It's probably not spot on for how the student should be tested. I don't think there's any disagreement on it. So they're going to take some time to figure out what the right level of scoring is. Right? Otherwise, you change the test for next year. It looks like students next year did phenomenally better. It's a different test with a different age. It's just going to take time for them to improve. Ask was here for 15 years or something. It's 15 years mature, and even that changed every single year. Every year it changed. So. Okay, great. We only have one committee reports. Finance.
Yes, the Finance Committee did meet tonight, and we had a list of things that we did go over. The first one is an impact of Park in that we had to go out and purchase some additional Chromebooks. We had to purchase 60 additional Chromebooks, 2 computers, monitor tests, some headphones, and some mice for computers, and that total came to $32,000. And the reason for that is what I've been told is that there's now recognition that special ed students cannot take the test in the same area as regular student tests because they are permitted some additional information, accommodations, and you can't have that going on in the same room where a student who is not allowed to have any accommodation is taking the test. So that additional $32,000 is coming out of this year's current expense budget. We also did start to discuss the next year's budget, next school year's budget. The calendar says that we must submit the preliminary budget to the county office by March the 17th. We did discuss the number of meetings that we have between now and March 17th, given the fact that we just canceled next week's meeting. There's only 2 meetings scheduled between now and March 17th. There was discussion of perhaps having a special meeting before another meeting before the 17th to give us 3 meetings. However, Ms. Nardino seemed to indicate that we probably could have the preliminary budget ready by March the 10th. I think our meeting is scheduled for March the 10th, which is only permits us 2 public meetings in which to discuss the budget. But since it is a preliminary budget, we think we can do it. If that turns out not to be the case, we might have to call a special meeting between the 10th and the 17th to pass the preliminary budget. I don't think we've gotten any other guidance. The guidance is still preliminary from the state. We did review the increases over the last 4 years, and their budget will be in the same ballpark in terms of an increase as in the past. We have a 2% cap on the tax levy. We do have some bank cap available to us for special purposes if we should need it. And the Finance Committee has agreed to meet, if need be, to discuss the preliminary budget and then present it to the board so that we don't perhaps not have to schedule an extra meeting. Beyond that, there was a brief discussion on some pay-to-play sports, and that we didn't make too much headway on, and we'll take that up at a later date. And I think that was about it. We had a discussion in private session concerning the professional service for French and Perella. We've already discussed that in private session. And that is my report.
A quick question. Some of you mentioned adding 60 more Chromebooks. So what was the total tally? Maybe this still might know. We had like 300.
The number of Chromebooks?
Yeah.
We initially ordered 400, and then we determined we needed another 60.
Okay.
So the 400 are to be allocated between Verona High School and HPW.
Okay, and the 60 will be for the elementary?
For the elementaries for right now. We will order more for next year because we're currently working on the process for a Google Teacher Academy. which will be professional development. So that way we can use the technology into our classrooms next year. With the we're going to be ready to go with that. So we'll be able to roll that out next year.
It's great. Very excited to have wireless technology and then new Chromebooks to play with, to make sure the kids have some technology to help learn some more. Thanks.
Are BC and Chromebooks both having their white glove service?
They are.
Yeah, okay. Your time?
They are.
Wow.
So we're expecting all of the Chromebooks to be here by this week. So we're in good shape. Wireless is all up and ready to go. That work has been completed, and the Chromebooks will be in momentarily. I think we received about 60 Chromebooks today, and we're expecting the others to come in momentarily.
For discussion items, I had one update for the board. It's a relatively benign update because of the nature of it regarding teacher and administrator contract negotiations, but just in form of almost has. I've sent the board the notes on what the proposals have been so far on both sides of the table for the AEA negotiation on language changes. We've not yet talked anything financial or anything related to financials. We are meeting, we have 3 meetings on the calendar. We have 2 meetings in the month of February, meeting next week, and then I think 2 weeks after that, and then there's a meeting in March that we have scheduled. So we're pretty close to getting out to the last few items on language proposals, I think. We seem to be in a fairly good spot. On the BAA, we had one introductory meeting. We went through all of the board recommendations for changes that we've circulated about a month or 2 back. No big showstoppers there. There were 1 or 2 items that investors need to take a closer look at because it seems like we have some outdated language in it relative to how we operate. That's just clean up, nothing problematic. And then I'll call on the BAA side tomorrow to see if we can schedule some follow-up meeting because I'm not doing everything on schedule.
And so once now that we've passed the ESIP, it would be time to start getting the sustainable schools as part of the sustainable futures together. So a lot of just to touch base, see what next actions were, and how it would help.
So we are in the process of creating a committee, so we'd love to have you on it. We have Glenn Stevenson, our supervisor of STEM, is going to be coordinating that. So as soon as we kind of get through some of the hurdles that we have as far as getting some things done, we are already started to communicate with Mr. Neal, and we're looking to work with the township in order to get that underway. And it actually works out perfectly based on a lot of the referendum work that's coming along. So we'll be able to really meet a lot of the expectations as part of the program.
Yeah, that's
so, but it's still going to take some time and some work to put into it. But if we just map out a plan and get some good stakeholders on board, we'll be able to do that.
And then leverage the vendors and businesses that we're working with right now, and just ease up all of our schedules. Awesome.
For sure.
That's fantastic to hear. I'm more than happy to
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Okay, we have resolutions instead of addendum resolutions, right? Yes. Okay, there are resolutions.
And there's just a couple of corrections. On resolution number 8, the date of that field trip should be February 5th, 2015. Have you scheduled that? Number 8.
Yeah.
There's a field trip to the Federal Reserve.
Fed challenge.
Fed challenge, yeah. The public probably has the correct date. Is this suggestion? February 5th.
Are we better informed than we are? Is that what you're saying?
No, because I don't like to confuse you, Mr. Beck, so I don't want to send out a revised one, just corrected in public. On referendum resolution number 10, the amount should be changed to $2,000. And on resolution number 11, the amount should be $6,204.50. And the reason why the amount changed is because we reduced the number of items that we were ordering. And then lastly, on the addendum resolutions, number 3, it should
Are you missing 11 through? Yeah.
Missing what?
They're missing the 11.
Oh, the addendums you don't have?
No, 10, 11, 12, and 11, 12, 13, 14. 9, 10, 11, 12. They're missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it double-sided?
Not more than they are.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so what we just did, so 9 through 11 are 3 resolutions, all to Eastern Datacom for 3 amounts. The first amount is $3,124 for additional cable lines. These are all related to the referendum, the technology portion of the referendum. And if there's ever a change order, for any reason, the board has to adopt the resolution. So the first one is for $3,124 for changes to the cable lines for our network. Resolution 10 is $2,000 for additional speakers that we missed in the original purchase. And resolution 11 is $6,204.50 for additional numbers of phones and installing those internet phones. And then there are 3 finance resolutions in there that are standard fare for our monthly meeting. The first is the checklists, which are the vendor checks and the cafeteria checks. Number 13 is the individual line item transfer attachment, which is for a total of $90,972 for the month of December, and a resolution to accept the secretary report for December 2000. Any questions on any of the resolutions?
And I guess a comment on item 20.
Actually, no, let's do a motion on
Okay. Resolved that the board approve resolutions number 1 through number 21 and addendum resolutions number 1 through 3.
So moved. Second. Moved by Mr. Yunus, seconded by Mr. Day. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a comment on number 20 about the board approving a donation from Exxon Mobile Education Program. That's a great thing. I guess there's some information about that, or is that something we have to apply for, or how do we get that donation?
Teacher applied for it and won it, and it's a grant that they're able to apply for instructional purposes in our math and science classroom, and they worked on that in coordination with Mr. Stevenson, the supervisor of STEM. So that's going to benefit directly our students, and the teacher has a proposal, and I'll be sharing that with the Education Committee at this meeting.
Now, is that an annual?
No, it's one time.
Okay. Is it something that we want to carry through reach possibly?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Okay, just one vote.
Mr. Day?
Aye.
Mrs. Kresge? Aye. Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Galino?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Aye. Okay, that ends our board business portion of the meeting. We can open up to any public question or comments.
Good evening, Jessica Pearson, Verona. Oh, 20 Montclair Avenue, Verona. Jessica Pearson once again. My comments are respectfully to bring awareness to this board and to anyone else in the public about some changes that we may see that are very probable in the way of development in Verona, changes that would affect the tax levy of the BOE, and therefore their bottom line and your bottom line. You may know or you may not know there are a number of properties in Verona that are being considered areas in need of redevelopment at this point. And generally, these programs are viewed as very beneficial to the township or to a municipality. But in the case of these types of programs, the Board of Ed is always left out. So the municipality does generally do good with the monies, BOE left out. As a quick explanation, for each dollar collected in the township of Verona, whether from land value tax or land improvement tax, 55 cents of that dollar goes to the BOE, 25 cents goes to the township, and 20 cents goes to Essex County. But when an area is declared an area in need of redevelopment, the whole lump sum changes, and the way that the monies are divvied up changes. When this happens, a developer can apply for a pilot program, and when he or she does, the monies from that property on the land improvement, they don't go to the BOE anymore. 95% of those monies go right to the municipality, and 5%, 5 cents, goes to Essex County. So the schools are essentially cut out of this beneficial deal that's supposed to benefit the whole town. Let me just give you really quickly the numbers on a property that's being looked at right now, Annan. And I know it's a far way off, but right now on Annan's land improvement, the buildings alone give the BOE around $38,000, and that money will be completely cut off if this goes through. So, and I think we can also all agree that someone is going to do something good on the BI property at some point. I hope it's good. And let's also understand that once buildings are repurposed, built, or renovated, their assessment goes up, and therefore the monies that come from them are also increased, and none of those monies will go to the BOE. So how are the funds made up? It's really easy. All of you end up buying it and paying for it, because your taxes end up going up. So the burden of the taxes are actually shifted to everybody else. I'd also like to mention that most of these properties that are being looked at, the Verona property, the Annan property, they're being looked at in a residential manner. And we can all agree that it would be very short-sighted to assume that families with children won't move into beautiful luxury apartments, because we could look right up, case in point, at the Hilltop, and we all know that there are students that live at the Hilltop, and those are age targeted. Verona always welcomes families to town. We want them to come to town. It's part of the reason families come to town are for the schools. That's probably one of the biggest reasons people come to Verona. So I think that it would be silly for us to be remiss and not make demands on a program that actually invites the families to the town. How can we fix it? As I mentioned earlier, pilot programs can be very beneficial to municipalities if they're implemented properly. How would it be beneficial to cut the schools out? It wouldn't be. It's one of the biggest, as I said, assets that Verona has. We can only fix this by calling our councilman. The town council has the authority to say half of the money goes here, half of the money goes there. And as a matter of fact, Councilman Malcolmson at the last meeting said it's the right thing to do. And I'm quoting him. He went so far as to say 40% of the taxes from pilots, or the funds, should go to the schools. So what I'm asking you to do is tell your councilman to include the schools and make the schools a partner in this beneficial program. Thank you.
The old 15 Howard Street. I too am here to talk about the pilot monies. I am very concerned about it. It shifts, like Jess just said, it just shifts the burden back to the townspeople. And you have a problem here with the Board of Education that's been ongoing for years. It has to do with capital improvements and maintenance in our schools. Very honestly, it almost turns my stomach when I walk into front lobby of this high school to see the condition of this high school. When I walk into some other school buildings in other districts, when I walk into Town Hall here in town and see the condition of Town Hall, which looks immaculate, and I see this, which is probably from 1956 when the school was built. And I think it's about time that you people have the funds. And this is a place, these pilot funds, but how do you get the money? Because the money goes to the town. And I'll tell you what I believe needs to be done. I think each of you, as board members, needs to contact the council members. Each one, pin them down individually, find out where they stand, and get them to agree that the school board deserves and needs the money for these capital improvements and for these maintenance projects that have been put off year after year after year. And I've heard you say it, you kick the can down the road. But it's not going to happen unless you as board members put the pressure on, because I know me as a citizen, individually, I am going to go out there and I am going to be talking to my neighbors and I'm going to get them to go to council members, but it has to come from the people who are going to get the money because you are responsible for the schools. Thank you.
Before you go, I've been on the board 12 years. We've been talking about pilot money for 8 of the 12 years. We've had discussions with the town council. There has been agreement in principle, that some of the things that we desperately need could be covered by pilot money. They're somewhat restricted in what the pilot money could be used for. We've already checked it with bond counsel and legal authority on what they could provide in terms of pilot money and what we could do with it. But there are such things as gymnasiums, restrooms, corridors, doors, certain facilities issues, which certainly could come under the umbrella of distribution of pilot money. Again, it is a function of the town council. They have exclusive right to the pilot money, unless they themselves choose to share with boards of education, which some towns have already done. Some towns do it from the minute pilots are discussed within town councils or along the way. We've had the discussion. Nothing has been forthcoming for whatever reason. The money has not come quickly to the town. They're now in the process of starting to collect the pilot, which I think maybe in the second or third year. But discussions have taken place. I don't know what else we can do as a board. There are discussions taking place as we speak here. It's really up to the town people to let the town council know what they're feeling. We let the town council know. They know what our feeling is. And if they say they don't, it's not correct. They know what our, it's an 8-year discussion, and we still haven't come to.
I think six different people have served as mayor as we've been. That's a long topic. So just a couple of things to Joe's point. We just got new latest tax information, so we're now 54% of the tax dollar, not 55. That came out yesterday. Technicality. I checked with Gary Vinci left, right?
Yes.
So Gary Vinci, our auditor, was here earlier. So I checked with him. Two things. I just want to clarify something that Mr. Bellino pointed out. When the township assists the Board of Ed in something that's to the benefit of the community. So, for example, an improvement to a gymnasium, which has got a fair amount of rec use, or the bathrooms right near the gymnasium, that sort of thing. Where the council is helping with the project by participating in sort of a shared project, there are some considerations on what they can and cannot use their funds, that would otherwise be seen as benefit to the school. However, when it comes to, and this is sort of, I went to Gary and Mr. Vinci just to triple check this. When it comes to pilot funds, or any other funds for that matter, if it's revenue to the town, and the township felt that it was in the town's best interest to transfer some revenue funds, in this case it would be pilot, to the Board of Ed, they're allowed to do that. There's a process by which you can do that. So that we can use the money for what we believe is priority need, which is Board of Ed. We certainly wouldn't tell the town how to manage the police department, and the town would be difficult for some of the township side to know all the details about what would be priorities for the Board of Ed. So there is a process to transfer cash to the Board of Ed, and the Board of Ed would determine. To Joe's point, the Board of Ed we've consistently said that our focus is on the academic improvement of the district. It requires the least amount of capital to change. We change procedure, behavior, training, all the rest of it. We've made great strides in progress. When it comes to the facilities, we've done the $33 million referendum back in 2005 or 2006 and the recent one now. To keep that in perspective, when we did the 2005 referendum, there's a big audience here, and I'm boring you to tears, stop me, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands this. When we did the 2005 referendum, we did part of that analysis was we did a full site review of all 6 buildings and facilities. We had our engineers and architects came in and they went through every building. And we said, just give us what's priority in terms of improvements that we really need to be thinking about making. What's breaking, what's in need of repair, what's unsafe, etc. The total for that, and I'm rounding, was somewhere in the high 60s, close to $70 million worth of work. And that was in 2005. Okay, so I'm rounding up a little bit. If it wasn't 70 million, it was 67.5 million, something like this. Let's say $70 million in 2005. That was 10 years ago. There was 2,200 students sort of in the buildings every day, and they get beaten up pretty bad. So out of that 70 million, we did $33 million worth of work. And that was the referendum we did back in 2005. This year, we did 15 million, including the fields. So add those two together, 33 and 15, still a far cry from 70, but it was 70 10 years ago. There's been 10 more years of decay, improvements, furniture breaking, the whole 9 yards that we need to deal with. In the fact book that Mr. Dionisio mentioned earlier, it'll be on the website, and I encourage you to take a quick look at it. We tried to distill down sort of the facts about this district. It's your district, your school district, it's your town, your kids. You guys pay all the tax money to support the place. We're just the trustees for it. If you look at that, there's a page in there called the Comparative Spending Guide. And the Comparative Spending Guide is where the state takes all the school districts' budgets. They tell you how you fare and how much you're spending relative to everybody else. In our grouping, which is kindergarten through 12, there's about kindergarten through 12 and the size of the district, somewhere between 1,800 to 3,500 students. So we're 1,800 to 3,500 students, K-12. There's about 70 districts that are like that in the state of New Jersey. We're one of the 70. What you're going to see in there is our spending per student is among the lowest in the state. I think we're something like in the lowest 10 out of 70 school districts, total spending. So we have 54. A lot of folks, I get the 54. I wish there was another statistic other than that, percentage on the dollar, because it seems at 54 cents on the dollar, it seems high. It's probably one of the lowest around, and the number of dollars we're talking about is out of 70 districts, we're probably in the lowest 10. Maybe even less than that. We may be in the single digits lowest. There's a couple of columns that we break down to show you how that number further details itself. And the number I think that Mr. Viola is talking about is there's a number there that talks about the amount of money on a per student basis that we spend for building maintenance on an annual basis. It is by far the lowest amount around. It's annual maintenance. So we really, and Ms. Bardino, Mr. Dionisio, and certainly Mr. McGill, they sort of live a life of fighting fires. If we were able to get some flow of Title I, that's probably what the Board of Ed would first direct that money to, is basic maintenance on an annual basis, so you don't end up in these situations where every 5-6 years we're looking at $10, $12, $15 million worth of repairs.
Right. Well, I'm just...
Back in 1957 was a great entryway, by the way.
Yes. But again, my point here is, not only as the public, which I'm going to be encouraging people to go and talk to town council members, you people, you are, besides the fact you are all residents, and you're also board members, you have a dual role, and your weight will carry more if you can start to talk to them. Don't just let them say, oh, this is...
You're wrong. You're wrong about that. We've been there. I can even give you an example of a project that we got a commitment for, and we talked about it here in the board meeting. We talked about the HBW track, which we got a commitment for in terms of participation with the town. It never came. It never got here. The money Never got here, just like the Godfather. Money didn't get to Havana, all right? Never got to the Board of Education office. You're not listening to us, Al. You'll have more weight, and the people out there will have more weight than we have. We've asked. We know that they don't have to. They could say, no, I'm sorry. The law says it's our money, and it is. But we made the attempt. We haven't been successful. We failed, frankly, in that regard. You and the people out there will have more weight in that regard than we will. So I disagree with you.
Well, I will still ask for your support as
You have my support. And if you want to go to a town council meeting and talk about it, I'll go with you.
I am going to the town council. I have something prepared for the town council in regards to this. But I'm coming here because I'm asking that all of you individually contact town council members and talk to them and explain the situation that you're faced with here. I know what you're faced with here. I want to see it corrected. I don't want to see this gap of $70 million and, oh, well, we've taken care of 33, and oh, now 10 years has gone by, and of course, nothing broke during those 10 years. Nothing wore out during those 10 years. Yeah, of course it did. And, you know, I want to see you get your fair share of that pilot money, and I'm going to be working on that, and I'm just asking for your support to just, let's go after it. Don't wait. If I just think of what's the possibilities for, and Kevin Ryan said it, if you started at one end of Bloomfield Avenue and went to the other, you could literally declare every business under the rules right now as an area in need of redevelopment that could eventually be eligible for pilot money, which would exclude you from that pot of money. It could be done, okay? What I'm saying is we have to make sure that you get your share. When that money comes into the town, it just shouldn't be there in a pot for the town to do what they want with it. They have to start taking a look at the whole town. As another council member put it, we're all one tax family here. We're all being taxed, and I'm just asking for your support. Hound them, if that's the word. Talk to those council members and tell them that you need those funds. And as a citizen, I will, along with some others, start to put the pressure on. Because if you start going down the street, just look at the empty lots where the pancake house used to be. Of course, the Verona property is empty. There are other lots that are empty, other places that are in need of redevelopment. If you people are excluded from all of those funds, you're going to be struggling for years and years. I'm trying to say it's time to make a change. And I'm asking for your support as we go forward. Thank you.
I guess I'm here to sum it up. And we need the old 15 Howard Street. You've heard from Jess and you've heard from Al about the use of pilot projects or tax abatement projects and how they hurt the schools and the taxpayers. We realize that we're here preaching to the choir. You know that you're not receiving your fair share of municipal revenues. The taxpayers of Verona hear that the pilot projects will keep 95% of the monies received in Verona. No one tells the taxpayers that this money is put into a special fund that isn't used to pay the taxes or fund the schools. No one tells the taxpayers that their taxes can increase in order to cover the municipal and school budgets, because the pilot projects are no longer on the tax rolls for any improvements on these properties. So far, Verona has approved 3 of these projects: Hillwood, the Children's Institute, and Hilltop. And you've had to float 2 bond issues in recent years to fix our schools. Much more is needed to make repairs, we know that. With the rules about school finances, this can only lead to more bond issues and more costs to taxpayers. And there are more pilot projects on the horizon. They will further add to the problem. Councilmen Knockinson and Ryan have spoken of these inequities in a couple of town council meetings. We need all of the town council to be on board with this. We need the Board of Ed and all the remaining taxpayers to call or email the town council. We need everyone to make them realize that this money needs to be fairly shared with the schools. So we're asking for your help.
Can I just make a quick comment, and just make sure I'm not misinformed? It's 54 cents on the dollar, and what was shared just a moment ago was that the fair thing would be 40 cents on the dollar.
I think,
No.
40 cents on the dollar was what somebody
Somebody
one of the council
That's
members
what-
suggested
that was one
40
of the
cents.
recommendations.
40 cents of each item a dollar, each floated to the board then.
Wouldn't it make sense for it to be 4 cents for every pound of dollar? Since that could be what we're getting.
Yes.
I'm just trying to grab my head around.
Yes, it would.
Okay, yeah,
It was what was quoted at one of the
Okay.
council meetings
got it.
versus zero.
Yeah. I see, like, if we're talking about fair, I would say, the fair thing would be if you 54 cents, you get 54 cents. No disrespect to the gentleman who said it. Yeah. Thank you, sorry.
Sharon O'Donnell, 12 Sutton Place. Members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. Black Horse Pike Regional, Bloomfield, Bordentown Regional, Brick Township, Bueno Regional, Byron Township, Clinton Township, Collingswood, Oakland, Delran, Delsey Regional High School District, East Hanover Township, East Windsor Regional, Edison, Egg Harbor Township, Elmwood Park and Evesham, Fairlawn, Frankfurt Township, Gloucester County Institute of Technology, Gloucester County Special Services School, Haddon Township, Hamilton and Mercer County, Hillsborough, Kearney, Little Egg Harbor, and Livingston, Mawa Township, Manalapan, Englishtown, Medford Lakes, Merchantville, Middletown Township, Milburn, Montville, Montville Township, Morris, Morris Hills Regional, Neptune Township, North Brunswick, Pemberton Township, Pennsauken, Princeton, Randolph, Robbinsville and Roosevelt, Somerset Hills, Southern Regional, Stafford Township, Township of Ocean, and Township of Union, Wall Township, Washington Borough, Washington Township in Bergen, Washington Township in Gloucester, Wayne, West Windsor Plainsboro, and Woodbridge Township. Respect a parents' and students' right to refuse the park test, and they are providing non-punitive accommodations and resolutions. I ask this board, don't the parents and students of Verona deserve the same? The untested and developmentally inappropriate park is not a tool for assessing the effectiveness of a teacher or how well a student has learned their lessons. It is a means to an end that is positioned to crush public education and to make the private edu-businesses rich through the use of data points, over 400 data points, that are being collected during this test. It is enough to make Machiavelli proud. States were bullied, yes, bullied, into adopting Common Core before it was fully formed. But tonight, I urge this board to become more educated about the underreported web of relationships supporting the Common Core curriculum. I trust that you would never willfully remain ignorant of what is seriously and negatively impacting our schools. No.
Just a park or pilot? Park. Okay. Not trying to talk you off the program. So thank you very much. At our last meeting, we expressed frustration that the board has and the superintendent have with this whole park topic. So I think we're all on the same side of the park debate. We don't see any sensible rollout of park. We don't see any sensible use of park. But we're also conflicted because we're stuck between two difficult situations. One, we've got direct instruction from the Department of Ed, from our attorney, school boards, and from the county superintendent on what we can and cannot do as it relates to park. We've triple checked that. I can tell you that I personally spoke to the Department of Ed the week before last. I spoke to our county superintendent the week before last, it was the day after. Mr. Dioniso attended a roundtable meeting the day after I had those phone calls, specifically on what we can and cannot do. Assemblyman Deegan has legislation that we expect is going to fly through Trenton that will clarify for boards of ed the ability to formally allow parents to opt out. The instruction that we've been given has been very, very explicit. Regardless of what those other districts are doing, the DOE is telling us we cannot do what they're doing. Whether there's a repercussion to them for doing it is not our business. I can tell you that there is no well, one guy said yes and somebody else said there. It is 1,000% one way. The test is mandatory and you must administer the test. What looks like, if you heard it before, we are not in the sit and stare business. We are not into jam a child to taking the test he or she is not ready to take or not comfortable to take. And we are not in the business of overriding parental responsibility. Period. There is no, you must take this test, and if you don't, there's punitive results. We are not in the sit and stare business, like I said before. What we cannot do is we cannot explicitly provide a forum where the park test is deemed to be optional. In other words, come in and take the test, and if you don't want to take it, no problem. You're going to go to this other room and do these activities. That's what they're telling us very specifically we cannot do. I can't answer, and they can't answer for me, what the story is in these other districts, other than we don't believe they're allowed to do that either. But they've done it. Our answer in Verona is very, very simple. We have a procedure that we're working through that's going to be supported by the legislation coming through Trenton. That procedure is if a parent opts out of the test. I'm going to use the word opt-out because even though they're saying there is no opt-out, functionally that's what it is. We just need to formalize the sign-off that says I opt that my child will not be taking this test, no problem. We need to know how many and in what grade levels those children are so we can plan for how to best support them while the test is administered to everyone else.
Excuse me, may I just respectfully ask you to use the word refuse, because we understand that opt-out does convey a sense of, loosey-goosey choice.
Yeah.
But it would be a refuse.
Some refuse. What the black and white is, there are students that are going to take it, and there are students that are not going to take it. Let's leave off the table students that are absent. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. So if you fill a form out and say, I refuse to have my child take the test, by whatever definition, we need to know how many students we're talking about. We don't have the facilities nor the staff to support lots of kids, and we need to plan for that. So what I mean by that, when the 8th grade is taking the exam, the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade at HBW will be in class in normal routine with their teachers. So we don't have a bunch of teachers sitting around where you can put kids in the library and elsewhere and provide all kinds of alternate activities. The alternate activities bit is the problem. We believe that we were talking not that many on a percentage, and as Mr. Dionisio said, in all scenarios, including before all of this, our plan was when a student says he or she is done with the test, they carry out the activity that the test was administered. If you finish that test after 10 seconds, or with 10 minutes left in the hours of testing, you're done. There is no forcing you to do something you don't need to do or don't want to do. The procedure that we're putting in will allow a parent to say, I refuse to have my child take the test, in which case we'll say, okay, if it's a de minimis number of students, you come in with the rest of your peers. While they're taking the test, you sit at your desk and read the book as if you just finished the test. If it's a lot of students as a whole, that might change the makeup of how we deal with the population of students in that grade on that day for that particular test, but we need to gauge how big the population is. When it comes to absenteeism, the state has been very, very clear. We must mark absent and keep a record of who's in school that day and who's not. There's a million other reasons away from Park why we're obligated to do that. If a student is here on that day, they are present. If they're not here that day, they are absent. We need to keep that record. But if your child is going to be absent because of the refusal to take the test, we're trying to come up with a way to say, no, send your child to school. They'll perform some activity instead. So that's what we've been working on. We've been very consistent with that all along.
Would you please put that in writing for us?
I'm going to write it down like a piece of paper, in the policy. I mean, I'm not being facetious.
No, I know.
I mean, we've said it 8 times on TV and recorded it. We'll write it down for you if that makes you feel better. I stare at the TV camera and it's recorded. But okay, we'll write it down too. But, so we're going to have the forms will be issued once we get. Right now, Trenton is telling us we're days away from legislation and we're days away from writing it down on the form. And we're months away from taking the test. So we're trying to.
1 month. We're actually not. March 2nd.
Starts next month. So, yeah, but we don't need a Board of Ed meeting for a procedure. We need a Board of Ed meeting for resolutions and policies. This is just a simple procedure. We do this kind of stuff all the time. So we don't need a resolution like other folks have done. All we're doing is saying there is a way to say, I refuse, and this is, by the way, this is not a Park thing. If you refuse to have your child take the S test, and we've had objectors to that too, we handle that in the past as well. If you're sitting on this side of the table, this is not the height and the concern on it is much greater, and we talked about that last meeting. But what to do when somebody says, I refuse to take this exam, or I refuse to do this assignment on these grounds, is something we deal with all the time. So we're going to publish it to all the parents with the school community-wide on how to fill out this form. There's a technicality in there. We just need a couple of days' notice, 4 or 5 days' notice. I think is what we're planning. The legislation says it must be 14 days' notice. We think that's silly. We've sent feedback in and said, guys, you don't need 14 days. Make it 5 days. Give people some time. So they're sort of tweaking the thing as we speak. But in the next week or two, you'll have something in your mailbox that says, if you refuse, just fill out this form so we know which, like, put it this way, if a child shows up and says, sorry, my dad said I can't take the test, and he's like, well, did your dad give you a note? No, there's no way for us to tell. So we try to just put it in the hands of parents, which is where it should be. And if the parent says, I refuse, then you refuse. It's that simple. But we are not, and never have them, ever, during farm, pre-farm, a sit and stare district. That's unconscionable. That's not what we do. So.
Hi, I'm Monica Gary.
Hopefully that was a lead-in.
Sorry, I'll talk anyway. My name's Monica Cleary. I live at 56 B Street Place. I'm going to talk high messages, but I am here to talk about Park. I'm just gonna. My daughter is in the gifted and talented program at Verona. We're very proud of her, and it's in large part due to the education that she received at this point. We're very happy at it. I'll not be allowing my child to take the Park test. And while you've already spoken to this, I'm just going to say that my concerns about parks, it's shared by a large population of people here in New Jersey, educators, administrators, and parents. And I think that, it's incumbent upon you to listen to your constituents and provide an educationally appropriate, non-punitive alternative to Park test. And when I say that, I mean a different location, not sitting there, maybe not staring, but not sitting there reading a book, which I believe also is against Park policy. We used to have a non-testing student in the same room as somebody who's taking the Park test.
students who are actually scheduled to test are considered tested students, so it's permitted.
But if they're in the room, because they have to be, but they're not taking the test.
Right, if they're permitted.
Right, so it's not sit and stare, but I question how helpful that is to either the test takers or the non-test takers. So I don't disagree.
I'm sorry, did I mean to, so
Yeah.
you can't agree with you more.
Yeah.
The logistics that we're dealing with around doing this test, everything from the scheduling to the prep, to dealing with the parental concern, the computers, the training, the system, is mind-boggling. Like, if we put this much time into figuring out the state pensions plan, we wouldn't be broke. The fact that somebody can't balance the budget is
Well, as you sense that you're on side with this, and I appreciate that. I think maybe then perhaps what I'm requesting of you is more guidelines. Because I've spoken to a lot of parents who are really threatened by punitive actions for their children. They don't know the results of this. They don't understand the implications of having their children not take the test, yet they're concerned with what it will happen to their children if they do take the test. They don't agree with it. They don't agree with the fundamental part of the test.
So we can,
that it's a fair way to measure their teachers or the aptitude of their children.
So we have, so we have a park night on the 11th?
10,
But
11.
at park night, are you going to discuss the option of not taking the test if you strongly disagree with it?
Prior to park night, we will have more guidelines, hopefully as we get more information from the state. So the intent of park parent night is to focus the conversation on what Common Core is, what park is, how it's infused into the curriculum, and what we're doing and what we've done over the past few years in order to align with the Common Core and what's been going on in the classroom. So that's the purpose of that evening.
So, but more specifically, the question is, will we have information on how to refuse to take the test? Informed by that?
I'm not sure if we'll have it by then because the next session is on the 10th. So I don't know if we're going to have it at that point.
We should.
So, but once we have it, we'll be able to communicate that out in another form.
We can educate and answer questions about what we're planning on how to deal with it. And I think the bit about clarifying for folks, Mr. Molino's point earlier, what the results will and are not useful. And right now, the only thing that we are aware that they're used for is whatever the state determines to use.
I would say not just about the results, but also about options for parents that are refusing the test on behalf of their children, not just the results of this test itself for children that take the test, but what happens to children that do not take the
That's what I'm saying, to clarify that
Yes.
there is nothing happens to me.
Right, and that, I think, is
No, that's right.
and just to add, there's a petition, I'm on it, it's only been online for a week today.
I read up to the part that said that the Board of Ed is a sit and stand Board of Ed, this is, and I said, then I stopped reading it.
And
we've never done.
Already it's gotten over 160 signatures, just in a week, and it's just urging you to help us understand our options for this test. So we would appreciate your help with
And
that.
appreciate, look, for those of you that are here, communicate to as many concerned parents as you can. That it's on, it's recorded. It's like, we'll write it down, we'll get the documents out and everything else. If you refuse to take the test, you will not be taking the test. That's it. There is no, we are not using it for any indicative information in Verona other than what we use any other test for. And when it comes to park, because it's untested, unsized, to Mr. Day's point, we don't know what, if you get a 30, what does that mean? Nobody knows. It's got very, very limited value, if anything, to us as a school district. I can tell you, if you look at the latest school report cards, to give you a sense of what the frustration that we have with the folks down at the Department of Ed, when it comes to this sort of stuff. If you look at the latest school report cards, you're going to see Verona High School is ranked as an academically high achieving school. That's terrific, right? Academically high achieving. And then it's going to say, when it comes to its comparison on its academic achievement to its peer schools, top high schools like in the same category that Verona, it also fares just as well. That's great too. And then it says, but when it comes to college readiness, Verona High School lags its peers. And I said, gee, that made me scratch my head. How can you be high achieving? How can you be just as good as the other high achieving schools, but you lag at something called college readiness? And then you sort of dip into all the details. And you know why we lag in college readiness? Because two things that are not mandated, we don't do a good job. One of those things is the percentage of students that take the PSAT. The PSAT is a good barometer of what you should prepare for the SAT. It's not mandatory to take it, right? And 46% of the Verona high school students take it. But if you were in Livingston or Melbourne, 90% of the students take that PSAT. So the state is ranking us harshly. Even though we're a high achieving district academically, they're ranking us harshly when it comes to readiness for college because of the percentage of students, not that go to college, but who took the PSAT as science, not even management. It's just bizarre. So God knows what they're going to do about using the park results for something. We don't know, and we're frustrated.
Bernardino, 15 Morningside Road. I just want to clarify that there is no consequence for a child refusing a test.
Never has been, never will be.
Okay. You actually answered a lot of my questions, which I was really happy about because I am also a teacher, and what you're telling me you're doing in the district is great because what I'm hearing is very different. I'm told children are not allowed to bring reading materials into the test room at all. They're allowed to bring nothing. I'm told if a child exits the exam or gets logged off as the teacher, I'm to log that child back on.
So you told that where?
In another district.
Where you were, but not nobody here is talking.
No.
Oh.
So I'm happy to hear those things are not going to happen.
Put my hair on that.
Yeah, no, I was not told that here, but happy to hear that that's not going to happen. So you've eased my mind a bit. I too, like many other parents, would love an alternate location for children to go, but I do understand the concerns of staffing and all that. I'm going to respectfully disagree with something that Mr. Dionisio said earlier. Verona has used NJS scores solely to place children.
Fifth grade GT.
Fifth grade GNT, any middle school advanced classes, any mandatory basic skills remedial classes that were required solely on NJS.
I think we stopped doing that.
We've done, yeah, and
We stopped doing that.
talked about this. So I ask that park scores, whether they're this year's that aren't going to count, but in the future, that Verona as a district looks at teacher recommendation, looks at grades, and not only standardized test scores. So
that's not what when I was in school. It was we literally took the ask, and that's what determined where I could be and on track. We had to get parental overrides. My mom had to come in and vouch that I could do the work. So
well, I was mom who was told you can't because it's mandatory.
Anytime you're only looking at one criteria, it's too narrow of a focus.
I agree.
It would be the same thing if I had said, just look at teacher recommendation, or just look at marking period grades. That's not going to give you a cross section, a sample of what that child needs to do.
So we did away with, I think it's about 3 years now, we've done away with unilateral using it because it made no sense.
I'm very happy to hear that. Talked about bringing Chromebooks. It's my understanding that all of the Chromebooks and things brought in are paid by the district for a part, that the state does not give you any funding. With Chromebooks come also a mouse and headset for each Chromebook. Is that correct?
Yeah, we ordered headsets and mics for the students for testing.
$1,700 worth of mics.
Sorry. Okay, got it covered. So, will Verona be doing any test simulations, and will be parents be made aware of it?
Test simulations like practice tests for students?
Yeah, I mean, I know the kids have been doing a lot of it. I've been hearing all about it at home.
Yes.
About how school's not fun anymore, and all we do is get ready for park and yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
But I know some districts are actually running full testing mode simulations.
I wouldn't say we're running full testing mode simulations. Once the Chromebooks come in, we're going to be able to, at the middle school and the high school, be able to incorporate students so that way they're comfortable, because on test day, we don't want that to be the first time that obviously they have experience with the website.
If children are refusing, are there alternate activities they can do during that time?
There are not, because we don't have the staffing available for that. So that's
Even
part
on
of
the computer, I know there are some districts who are letting children go onto educational websites, ballpark, etc. assessments are being done?
No, that's not something that we're currently doing. Then we're all focused on the curriculum, so everything's embedded with the curriculum.
And I'm just going to urge people, just my personal opinion about Common Core and Park, that they are separate, and you may hate both, and that's fine, but I do think that the standards offer a lot for our children, and my personal opinion is I'm not a fan of standardized testing, but I am a fan of the Common Core standards and how they teach our children, so I don't think that they're one and the same, and I think we need to be careful when we talk about them.
Just one thing, Michelle, to the point about preparation. One of the things that we have not done is spend any amount of time on prep for the test, other than the basics of, here's what it's going to look like, here's what the computer is going to look like, here's how you would answer those sorts of basics, but we've not done, we're sort of not park bad memory. Some districts go to a lot. I know that I think New York was just in the news. They had not only the students, but parents come in and do a park test. And all the things to have, a bunch of parents come in and do like, that's not like how just for those that take it, just come in and take it. See what, you're not going to, sort of, I hate to say it, we don't know what it's going to look like until somebody takes it. And right now, just don't plan to use it.
Hello, good evening. Joanne Whitlock, 14 River Avenue. I just want to take this time to thank the board for all Mr. Dionisio for all the information this evening on the park. I know that there's been a lot of, panic and fear and whatnot about what the park is, and I think it's simply because it's new. It's fun. Like you said, nobody knows what it looks like. Nobody knows anything about it, right? So the state, I think, did a very poor job about rolling this thing out. So I want to take this time to thank you all very much for the information. And I also want to urge everybody out there, if you are feeling like you are not getting the information or you need more information, I urge each and every one of you to reach out personally to the board. Email them, call them. They are readily available. I have done that on countless number of times to make myself more informed, especially when there isn't a board meeting happening or a regularly scheduled board meeting that didn't happen because of a snow day or whatnot. They are a plethora of information. They will calm your fears and give you everything that you need to know. So I encourage you to do that, and I think that they're doing a fabulous job of providing information to us. Thank you.
I that too. One of the reasons why in this board in particular, why it's great to reach out, is we do operate with more or less unified voice in the sense that if you reach out, John will be, or Mr. Parkosh will be anywhere in the world, and as board president, he will call you from India or anywhere, but he will call you. And that's how strongly he takes the fact that if someone reaches out as a unified voice to get a single answer with clarity, he will respond. He's not like,
or stuck in the Lincoln Tunnel.
He will respond to you. So we all get it, we all read it, and some board members will want to respond to you, but he is a spokesperson, so he will respond to you. If you feel vehemently against it, that's fine, but give the board an opportunity at least to share what we're doing to calm those fears, because what we're doing here and how we operate, I'm sure you know, you're here from Verona, it's just so different than so many other school districts and communities out there, and that's what makes Verona so great.
Thank you, Michael.
One thing I would add is that we have these informational sessions coming up, so that's going to provide some more details and clarity about the tests and what's going to be included on the tests. And that information, I recommend that, the folks here and the folks that are out in, about town, the parents, definitely attend that session too, because we want to make sure that's a worthwhile session and informational for everybody about the tests. So, thanks.
And I was just going to add, I've been reading a lot of the other policies. You went through a list of the towns that have them, and they're pretty in alignment with with what Mr. Partrochi just said. So when you read Edison's opt-out policy, I have 3 nieces that live in Livingston. They're all the things that
there is no SIGS there. There will be a way for parents to see coverage for the students in the class, and it's unclear right now, at best, given the number of students that we're talking about, whether we'll move them to some alternate site or setting, or they stay in the class with the rest of the students that are taking the exam, just given the logistic challenge that we have. I'm sorry, I'm not, I had an email, I'm trying to find it, but there's a website where the state is soliciting information and parental concern. If you haven't done that, you have that, so you have to do something. You do.
Ms. Arias, so I know what you meant. Just two questions. Only because of what I do. Chromebooks. What if they freeze up while they're taking the test? Like the system architecture and all that kind of planning.
Worst case is that, the worst case, I think, is that if a test that is not counting for anything didn't happen for a kid that tried, it still doesn't count for anything. That's how.
So if it freezes up, the kids can't get back on?
No, they can.
Escape?
No, they can. So if it were to freeze, then there's procedures now with the examiner manual that you log back in, and wherever the student left off, they get right back on. But you don't lose everything because it's constantly
They
saving
had all
for
that
proper
testing
cache.
and all that feedback and everything's been done. Only
As much as you can say,
These are the same people on it, 400 kids, whatever, statewide, taking the test, everything's been, I'm just,
as much as reasonably possible.
Right.
I go to the state website to put in my ethics answers every year, and sometimes that just doesn't work.
but there's contingency plans and things.
That's within the guidelines of how fall works.
Okay. And the other question is the math. All right, kids going to be able to have scrap paper, okay, because I have heard they couldn't take anything with them, they had nothing
Not
that they
true.
could be with.
No, they'll have, and we actually have, when students will be at tables, they have to have allocated a specific amount of space, so that way they can work and do math on paper.
So they'll have scrap paper
Yes.
available for them, pencils, whatever, especially, because in the old textbook, you get to write in the margins, the calculations or whatever. That was
Look,
it.
I have to tell you, and we've always said this, what person decided that we're going to make a new content to the test and do it for the first time on computers at all age groups, and do both of those at the same time, is just bizarre. Like, why are you just gonna do one, sort it out, and then if you want to computerize it? Like, saying you're doing it on a computer has zero value. And in fact, in this case, it takes immense value away from it. Just logistically.
And the math editor, along with doing the math.
Equation editor.
If they're having trouble with that, they can have that simulation practice that.
Yes.
If they can't, what if it's not work? I'm just thinking of like testing kind of situation, only with like IT background.
If it's not working for a specific student or for a number
Something
of
happens,
students.
yeah, if it's not, yeah.
They're just like anything else. There are irregularities. We contact the state. We can contact them and let them know we're having difficulty with it. We file a report with them.
So while they're in the middle of
But
this test, and it's not working or something's happening.
there are procedures that are in place that there's a chain of command, so that way the test coordinators there in that room, the examiners with the test coordinators contact our district test coordinator, and then we have a connection to the state website and to the park company and to DOE to make sure that we can rectify the problem and notify them of what's going on.
So everything's on a guideline, procedural.
It's all procedural.
Okay.
There's a whole manual that we've been tearing through since December 23rd when the state gave it to us.
That's when they first.
That was when we first got the state manual on December 23rd. So since then, we've been working on making sure that we're reading it, taking all that information and turnkeying it with our staff, and we're still working on that.
I think about it, the state gave it to the districts the day before Christmas. Like, I mean, if you're us, like, what do you think of the messages, right? The message is, we don't care. I just said, it's, just on the, what students are allowed to bring in a book that they're to read, can you clarify that for folks?
They can bring in whatever book that they'd like.
Right, so the
And we're
business.
going to communicate that to all of the classes, to all of our teachers. So they'll all, we're highly recommending, encouraging dare I say, requiring for students to bring something with them to the testing location in the event that they're done early with testing and need to read.
And the second thing, just to the lady who was just up here, think of, this is how we look at it. There are 600 odd school districts in the state.
Yep, about that.
600 odd. Verona is, no matter how you measure it, there's all different ways that they rank and all that, which is somewhere in the top 20%, if not better. Academically, financially, organizationally, planning-wise, strategic-wise, etc. Top 20% of 660. Can you imagine the problems that the other 80% are going to have with this? Just think about it. Now the state of New Jersey is going to go collect all of these park results from all. It's not going to be school.
Sarah Young, O'Farrell, 27 Westview Road. That's the perfect segue for what I wanted to say. Thank you so much. It sounds a little more hopeful for people who are choosing to refuse. But what's disturbing is that for this coming year, and next year, as you said, and the year after that, this counts for nothing. And my kids only have this year to learn, and it's gone. That's disturbing. I'm sure we all agree. The libraries will be closed. That's not right. I pay so much in taxes. I mean, we all do. I pay a lot extra. I don't mind, because I like living here, so it's worth it. That's what I tell people. And the reality is, our town is great. That's why we all came here. But the most reliable predictor of test scores, I mean, if you're a professional educator, you know this, family income and family education. So, and I also don't like comparing my child, especially my 5-year-old, to somebody in Milburn. I'm not here to get her an education to compare her. I want her to be happy and have arts and gym and a library like they do in private schools. And I want my child's teacher, who is beyond fabulous, all of them, to be able to tell me, yes, she's college ready. I don't think a test can tell us that. A test can't prove who's college ready. You never took it. You're not college ready. The seniors this year, they're not taking the part. I guess they're not college ready. That big, beautiful bulletin board when I came in of where the kids are going to college, they're caught. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. So it's very frustrating because if you're going to college, you're taking the SAT, you don't need the park. I have the letter right in front of me from December 2nd.
It's kind of odd, right? Like
I know.
The one thing you need to go to college is not mandatory.
Right.
And the thing that's mandatory, you don't need for anything.
Mm-hmm. That's very frustrating, and it's disturbing.
Can I say that you are so
Thank you.
right? And just the other day, I was having lunch with a colleague who I used to teach with, and she's no longer there. She's retired at the school. I don't want to say it because you know who's watching. And she was telling me about how the new teacher that replaced her in her class, they write about art.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I said, so what do they do it? That's disgusting.
Because it's teaching to a test. That's what it's coming down to. Right. And if you don't want that, you have to send your child to a private school.
And to take it even further, I mean, this is why we are so lucky in Verona. When I took art here, I promised my 4th grade art teacher, Ms. Carnaval, that I would take art in college because I just felt really bad that I was bad at it. Anyway, so I got to my final semester and I hadn't taken it, and for whatever reason, that thought still popped into my head, and so I took it. And I met my wife. That's because I grew up in Verona.
Right.
I was afforded this education here.
And that, you know, what you just reminded me, because I don't know if you took it or not, Michael, the high school biology test, that's another waste of time. 2 days of waste of time. I just asked my brother, who's yes, the high school biology competency exam. No. The high school biology, what's going on with that? I was told when my kids came to orientation this time last year, I was the only one who was aware of it, and I said, hi, what about the high school biology? And I was told, it never counts. We never see it, it doesn't matter. I'm like, so that's a waste of time. Right. I'd rather my kids do some I don't know, observational fecal matter or something like, go out and look at dead animals in the road or something. Look at life under a rotting log.
Right, so the biology test is another great example. Right?
Yeah.
We went from, there's going to be a new test that no one's ever seen before. It's a requirement to graduate high school.
Yes.
They trialed it and found out no one would graduate high school. And then they said, we're still going to give the test, but it's never going to count.
I know, so it's 2 days. Okay, thank you.
Dan DePalma, M. Terrace. Good evening, board members, Mr. Superintendent Anasio. Just a couple of quick questions in reference to the Lower Field project. I was wondering if someone has an update in reference to where we are with the site plan requirements and so forth.
So we're currently in the process of still working on the site plan. Site plan is something that takes extensive amount of time. French and Burrell Associates is working toward that. As soon as we receive that, we'll be submitting that to the township, and then from there, those plans will be submitted to the local planning board, and we'll wait to get an appointment with them to have a public hearing to be able to present in front of them.
Is there any estimated time?
Rough anticipated completion, we think probably within the next month and a half it could be. It could be even longer. It depends on how quickly they can get around to that.
Okay.
So the timeline is, these are the sort of the main milestones to get to the next stage of dialogue, right?
Yes.
Is A, we are waiting still for the Department of Ed approval letter. So the Department of Ed approval letter is to certify that we've been through the planning board review and that the project is approved to go to the bidding process. But we still must adhere to local ordinances and local town processes. So we're waiting on that. Right? We don't anticipate to go to bid until we get through the planning board and building approvals. So the first thing, so we're sort of
We're a long way off.
well, don't win in the sense until we get that letter. That letter from the Department of Ed is ended now, and then we've been hearing that for about a month now, but 2 weeks ago was, it'll be there about 2 weeks, so it goes on tomorrow, right? So we expect to get that in fairly short order. That's sort of a tick the box that they've approved, that would pass first point of review, which is, does it violate anything in that, which it doesn't. The second thing though is, okay, now what must you do to get variances on the townships? That's what it matter of the lights and the height of the bridges, all that becomes, we have to have that. In that is the requirement, and in order to explain that properly, process in Verona is to have a site plan done. The site plan process is about 6 weeks out, once we know we got the approval. Because the board, the DOE comes back and does not give us the letter, we're sort of back to square one. No sense giving the green light on doing the site plan review till we know for a fact we got that approval. Right? Once we get that approval, it's about 6 weeks to get the documentation done, and then it's got to go back to the town, to the planning board. They will determine whether the next meeting is again with the planning board, sort of round 2 or phase 2, or go to the Board of Justice and have a variance meeting. It's going to be one of the two. If it's the former, it goes to planning board, and then once they're to the Board of Justice, and there's about a month between minimum.
1 month in between each of those 2 meetings.
So once we go to the planning board, if the planning board says we need to look at this first, if they look at it and say, yeah, it looks okay, go and now apply for variances, there's a 30-day notice period to the Board of Justice and the public to say this is going to come up at whatever meeting. That's the minimum of 30 days. So it's going to be time.
Okay.
Again, we'll get it out to you guys.
Do they apply, I mean, I'm asking a question, I'm not sure, do they apply for all the variances at one time, or do they do?
We would. We would do all of that, because to be honest with you, if we don't get a variance on the lights, what's the point of we have to go back and do
Right.
the plan, right? Yeah. So it would be all at once. And the goal is to say, let's just get all the issues on the table. If we're at an impasse, then let's declare that we're at an impasse, and we have to change direction. But right now, until we get someone to tell us we're at an impasse, we're sort of trying to follow the process.
Sure. Okay, one last question, I don't really know if you have the answer to it. Now that you have to go for a site plan review, Does the remediation in the upper field change as far as who oversees that process? I mean, I know before the state was involved in it, and I guess now we have to go for site plan review. The town is more involved with it?
No, not exactly. The state is only, it only does the initial review of the whole project. They remain involved from an oversight point of view if they're giving us aid money for it. That's that broad money.
Right.
The fields, upper and lower, are not part of the broad.
Right.
So once they do the initial approval of the plan, which they did sort of back in 2014, it's approved to proceed to the point of design and review of the town for master plan performance. So we did that when we had the November planning board meetings. Submitted, the planning board sent their notes into the DOE, and now the DOE is expected to come back and say, you're good to proceed. And at that point, the DOE is out of it. So the governance at this point is the township.
So what the Department of Environmental Protection doesn't enter the picture at all?
The Department of Environmental Protection is only the picture on the sewer line replacement.
Okay.
Because it's a sanitary line, and we have a permit from the DEP that we applied for to replace the sewer line, which we have to do. Pretty normal thing. If we're going to do anything, we might as well fix that. So the sewer line is now covered. That's the only DEP permit that. But that's a sort of a FYI. We're not making it controversial.
All right. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Hi, I'm Doreen Summers, 68 Chestnut Avenue. And I was here last year. You guys were so gracious. You got us a third class of Right Up and Brown. So I know that you guys really, you listen and you do, you care. I guess I wonder, like, so what, and I don't know if I'm missing it, what happens if we, Verona say we don't want to take the test? Like, what happens to Verona?
Well, so let's assume that we're not doing anything that conflicts with the instructions we've been given, right? Because if we do anything that conflicts with the instructions of the DOE and the rules, the board could be cited, and the superintendent and others have their licenses. Now, do I really believe that the DOE is going to make an example of our superintendent here in Verona? Probably not. But they have made examples of other superintendents in other cases for the sole sake of making examples. We're just not going to take that chance. So let's assume we're not doing
Isn't it an
anything.
opportunity to also make a statement? Because it seems like we don't
the
believe in the like
we don't.
in general. So like, why don't we just say, hey, okay, let's see, where the chips fall, and then use it as a platform to get the word out there? Because I feel like if we keep, well, we can't do anything, and this is what they want, and I feel like that's what a lot of parents, that's kind of the reaction. Well, we have to take it. What are we going to do? And I understand, but I do not think it was clear that this was the stance of the board of that. I was watching the video.
Well, what we tried to do in
So
the
I think
past
that's why a lot of people are here tonight.
What's evolved from the last meeting we had 3 weeks, before we still took time, is that we've now clear that we can send out a note that says, do you want to refuse the test? If yes, fill this out and send us back in. And that gives us a record to pre-plan for a student who's going to walk in and not sit for that exam, not be found in his absence, and we should be to that school. We've clarified that from the last meeting, so we can talk more clearly about that. What we tried saying all along in the past is, when a child says, I'm done with the test, whatever time that is, they're done. And that was our way of saying, nobody's going to be forced to do something they don't want to do. So if some authority comes in and says, I'm done, 1 minute after the thing started, they're done.
But are my children, they're going to have to log in and put their name in?
No,
and all that?
they just say, I'm done.
Or are they going to be, because I have third grader. I mean,
Nobody-
and they're going to,
No, so-
I don't want them to feel pressured that the teacher or that all the other kids are doing it. Like, I think that's a little bit concerned too, of them having to sit in the same room. They're not used to it.
So that's why we don't want to leave it up to a child at any age to come in and say, I'm uncomfortable with it. No, we're not doing it. So the best solution is to have you as a parent sign your child out, so to speak. Tell us ahead of time, and when that child comes in, we'll set it down. And, we know who that is, and we know they're not going to log in, they're not going to do anything. Yeah, no, we're not going to we're not going to try to capture personal information, none of that. It's just, if you're out, you're out. Just as if you weren't at school, except that you're not trying to get an absence because you're there, and you're reading your book and carrying things. Our biggest problem is logistics on what to do with an unknown number of students that are not taking these. That, and the other thing that changed since the last meeting is legislation now has come out. I mean, Trenton has heard not only the superintendents and administrators and Board of Ed representatives, but they've heard the public. And that's why Legion or Harry's, I'm not sure they would do it much earlier. So the legislation is two parts. First part is to provide a uniform way for folks to do exactly what we're saying. You know, parent registers that that child is not taking these things. That's one part. They're trying to get that out the door in the next week or two. That's got a lot of weaknesses that still going to happen. That's what they're saying. The second part of the legislation, which is behind that, unclear when that happens, is to delay for up to 3 years any and all use of the test data. That includes teacher evaluations, school evaluations, etc. Because right now, like I mentioned, they name us on the school report card because we have a low percentage of students that take an optional test called PSAT in Southwest High School. You don't have to take it. There's no money to take it. If you take it, you take it. If you don't take it, you don't take it. But if you don't take it, we're going to call you not ready for college. Okay. You can't explain that to them. So therefore, the current plan is if you don't have
95%.
we have, by law, we have to have 95% of all our students take this exam. And actually, 95% in every building.
It's also in every building, it's also in every grade level in every building, in order to meet the requirement by the state. Otherwise, the state has told us that if you don't meet that, districts will be on a corrective action plan. And the details of that are yet to be determined as to what would happen for school districts that don't meet that requirement.
So for example,
it sounds like bullying, like we don't even know if it's even a real punishment.
Make no mistake. When it comes to, yes, when the government says it's bad bullying, no question. If there's 50 students at Brookdale in the 4th grade, roughhousing the number, right? If there's 50 students in the 4th grade at Brookdale, and 10 of them sign their children out not taking the test, that means in the 4th grade at Brookdale, 10% of the students, 20% of the students didn't take the test, right? That means we failed the state metric on annual yearly progress in that building. So Verona, based on the current rule, Verona's going to pop up on some list that NJ monthly prints and say, here's a school that failed their readiness. Look at your property. That's what's going to happen. So the second legislation says we're not doing that. We're not going to count or discount who's going to be educated. We're not going to hold you to that fine. The reason why they have to do that legislation is it's already, the 95% requirement is already in the state legislation. So the only way to not do it is to just say, we're not going to do it. Hope they're
Do we have any recourse? It's like, how do we fight back? I mean, it's like, I just feel like in general, it just seems like, because we just kind of have to go through this every year and then parent, until.
The only way to fight back is to send your sentiment to the legislators in the church. I can tell you that's the only way to do it. Put it this way, just to the old point before, and I respect what you're saying about calling folks in. When it comes to the folks in the Department of Ed, they hear from us all the time. And you know what they hear? It's those 5 guys in the room. That's it, it's 5. That means
Yeah, but you represent.
we were, when it's 50, and it's not just Board of Ed members, they listen. They absolutely listen. So get to the center. And senators, the best thing to do is to express it. And what I think is going to happen, I think, like I said earlier, the test results are going to come out. The experiences on the logistics and all that are going to come out. And we'll deal with this. That's what's going to happen. Statewide, put it this way, the state of New Jersey, we were just talking about, Mike Levin just talked about this, the state of New Jersey just came out with some.
Oh, the best thing for your buck.
No, not that, that was Verona. The state of New Jersey just got ranked on the, they do this 50 or something thing, and they rank all 50 other states. State of New Jersey just got ranked again, number 2 or number 4 in the nation. Right. Then I looked up the rankings of all the other states that take part. One of them is number 48. Okay, and one of them is 12, one of them is 30. There's no conforming in even two states. They should do it's all over. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I know it's not going to count, but it would be great if we could just
would
say
be-
as a town, we're just not going to do it. Like,
Yeah, well,
period.
it's legislated. You have to, right?
I know, but
The
it's
state board of education sets its standards by which we have to live by. We live by the law, we're bound by the law to obey the law. We don't have a choice of saying we're going to make a statement, it's just no different than abide by the state laws.
But you can protest.
We take oaths to do that, we're licensed, our administrators are licensed by the state, all that is put into jeopardy if we should willfully decline to do something that the state education says that we have to do. There's no statement to be made. You do it because we say you have to do it. That's the end of it. Hopefully at some point somebody will come to their senses, this whole thing will go away. But until they do, we're bound by the law to obey it.
And we're bound to do all the practice testing and require the children to,
We have-
because
we have
was said
respect- we
earlier,
have
like my children have been complaining in this library, like, they're not enjoying it. And it's like, so now half the year is gonna be test prep and test taking, like,
No,
it
no,
just.
we are a high achieving district that continues all our high achieving practices.
No.
So the students, we have an obligation for the students that are taking the test to make sure that they're prepared. We just have to, like, to not prepare. The reality is, by all implications, the majority of students are probably going to take this. What we can't do is say, we're not going to prepare anything for the logistics of taking
You're
the
doing the
test.
work in class and you're doing the homework, you should be prepared for
No,
the
the
test.
work-
Like, why should it be like, let's teach for this test? Like, that's what
So-
it's turning into, that we're just.
So I hear you. A year ago, there were another mom, wasn't you, up here arguing the complete opposite. We're not doing enough to prepare my case for this part. Other districts are spending full days doing full test prep. They've got computers being sent home. They're reading Park all day and all night. You guys are behind the curve. You don't even have the computers yet. Where's the internet? We have, believe me, if you sit on this side, you get old. I'm telling you. So we have a responsibility to make sure that the students that are taking the test are as prepared as reasonably they need to be. But I already said before, we're not like other districts. We're not spending all kinds of time on taking full tests, on doing it over and over again, having parents, like you know, have parents come in to take the test with their kids. We're not taking it anywhere near that level. But we do have to prepare for it. We do have to spend money on buying the devices. We do have to make sure that the Wi-Fi is sound and on the right size. But that's what we believe that what we're doing is just prudent preparation. Well, we need.
Well, I appreciate you giving us the option. All right.
I just want to read to you the letter from the Princeton Board of Education to the parents.
We have
I'm
read it.
just going to read it for the group, because you guys have been interrupting us a lot. I just would like for us to be able to read this. Well, I think that it would just be informative for the group here that
Have everybody go on the website and read it. We've read it. I've read that letter. I don't need to have it read again. We've made our statement as to what we're going to do. It's not going to change.
But with all due respect, I feel like you're saying that you're not going to do anything.
We told you what we are going to do. We laid it out as best we can. If the circumstances change, if direction comes down, it allows us more leeway, we will do that. But until we get that direction, we have laid out what we're going to do.
I would just like to say, though, that the New Jersey State Department of Education has to date left it up to the local school districts to address situations which parents refuse the test on
They're
behalf
wrong.
of their child.
It's not true.
That's not true.
So Princeton is wrong.
It's not
Princeton is
true.
wrong. So on that letter, I called the DOE,
Yeah.
I called our attorney, I called school boards, and I called the county superintendent. And what they all responded to is the part of you are not allowed to provide an alternate setting for parents, for students who just opt out. That's, I mean, they were very explicit about it, right? We wouldn't, put it this
You
way.
can probably
it would be-
understand our confusion
We
why
do.
we gave some districts and not.
It's, they're telling us it's not okay for the principals. So I asked school boards, for example, I said, then if it's not okay for principals, then how do I explain this to folks? And they said, you can't. Thank you very much, that was like the help. So we can't, like I said before to the first parent that spoke, we cannot explain why the folks in Princeton believe that's okay. We just can't. But I can tell you, it is as clear as I can show you all the letters we got that say absolutely not. However, the first thing I said is we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I got, you must give this test. And we said, well, what if a parent and child refuse? Well, then they refuse. Two opposite. So I just need to clarify, when somebody refuses, what can we do and cannot do? You can't say that you're allowed to refuse. You can't say that you're allowed an alternate setting. You can't say that you're allowed alternate activities. So like, but those are, that can't possibly be. It's impossible. And that's what the state is trying to address with legislation. Look, and I'm the first to tell you, I'm not here to defend anybody down the track. This is a nightmare for all of us. Okay? But what we're going to do is we'll have a form to fill out so we can track it and plan for it. No student is going to sit and stare. No one is going to be made to log in and do anything that they don't want to do. The test is not going to count as wrong for anything. And what the merits are of Clark and how we got to this point wasn't my doing, and none of us can answer that. Shouldn't happen.
Rich Rampola, principal of Brookdale. The hard part tonight for people in the audience is looking for logical answers to many illogical situations. But please know that Verona is a good district, and when we are done with the park, we will still be a good district. Know also that once the park came on our radar, as an administrative team, we did a lot of work behind the scenes to educate ourselves. We've been to numerous meetings, many of us more than one, and some of them have actually been helpful. Many have not, and many have been frustrating for us dealing with the Department of Ed as well. But we are dealing with a situation where we know that we were told we are giving the park, we are giving the park. We will be a good district when we come through this. Has it changed things this year for us? Absolutely. The hope is that going through it this first year, we'll learn and we'll do things better next year. We have never been a district that teaches to the test, and I don't think we have been this year either. I will be honest with you and say, preparing for Park has impacted how we do things. Yes, kids have been in the computer lab during library, which saddens me and the librarians and the teachers to practice some of the technological skills. But when we think about the school day, when can we get the kids into the lab? So sacrifices are made along those lines. But please be mindful that we are very much aware of your frustration, the teacher's frustration, and our biggest goal is to shield the students from that frustration so that when they do sit in the computer lab or on a Chromebook and take the test, they feel fairly comfortable knowing how to navigate it, knowing how to answer the questions, recognizing that some things on there they know, some things they may not know, and that's okay. And basically, that's how we are trying to get our kids prepared to be a part of this testing experience. So that's that little speech on the park. On an entirely different note, my colleague and friend Lou Wable and I had the great privilege this past Saturday night to be a small part of Mr. Morton and Friends, the alumni program, fundraiser at Verona High School. It was a fabulous night. Tremendous amount of former Verona High School students came back to be a part of that. If you were there, and I said it that night, if you look at the program, the number of participants who are music educators, or music professionals is a real credit to the music department in Verona. Those are the types of things that, as parents, you need to keep fighting for. And that's the part that gives Verona that heart, that care and peace. The teachers have not lost sight of that. The administrators have not lost sight of that, nor has the board yet. Thank you very much.
Hi, Regina French, 44 Brookside Terrace, which is a cracker box of a house. We could be
$8,000 a year in taxes, not because we want to live in a cracker box of a house, but for the schools. So up until this year, I feel my daughter's gotten an excellent education, and we don't mind at all paying those kind of taxes when we're getting what we paid for. But for the first time in her education, I really am thinking private school. She's not getting the same kind of education. This part testing absolutely is affecting how teachers are teaching. Everything is for the test. Language arts, I understand they have to learn how to analyze a passage and cite evidence, fine. Then it shows up in social studies, cite evidence, okay. Science, same thing. Finally, she got a poem to read. Yay, a poem, something that's not all this evidence-based. What's the question? Find evidence in this poem to support A, B, and C. She's not learning poetry. I mean, what is this? I feel like it's been a whole wasted year for her, and especially if she's not taking the test, it's all for naught. And I feel like if you're all saying you don't feel this test is of much value, why are your teachers testing to the test, or spending all their effort and all their focus is on this one darn test, which doesn't amount to a hill of beans? It's not going to determine the placement, it's not going to determine anything in her life at 11 years of age. So I really think we should hear those concerns the parents are having. Whether she takes the test or not, I don't really care. She wants to take it, whatever. I may have to refuse, I don't know. It's not important. My thing is, I'm really worried about the quality of education here in Verona, and I really think that someone needs to look at what's going on here in the classrooms, and this testing to the test, or teaching to the test, and everything's about the test. All our resources, what if I get not taking the test? This was a waste of years for her. I'm sorry, I'm just very disappointed about that. The other point I wanted to make, 95% bit, I think, isn't it if you're a Title I school and you have that waiver for the NCBL, that you don't have to worry about having that 95%?
If you have the waiver, you don't have to worry about it in that year.
Which we were not a Title I school, I imagine.
No.
So we wouldn't have to worry about the 95%?
No, we do have to worry about the 95%. We're not exempt from that.
We're not exempt from that.
Currently not exempt, but that's what the legislation in Trenton is aiming to correct. Saying that we're going to do away with that requirement for these communities.
Okay,
Because what's going to happen is a lot of districts are not going to meet the 95%.
And what do I do?
It's 95% for grade for both.
What do I do with my concerns about how my child's education has changed since the part came before? Are you going to be looking at what's being taught in the classes? Is there going to be a shift away from this part emphasis at some point?
Well, the drive from the Department of Education with Common Core standards, we're required to teach the Common Core curriculum. All of our district curriculum over the past several years has been aligned with the Common Core. Prior to the Common Core curriculum, all of Verona district curriculum was aligned to the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards. So what our students are learning in the classroom is district curriculum that our teachers and our administrators have worked very, very hard on in order to make sure it's a high quality product. And I believe that if we were to ask our teachers and our administrators if it's a high quality product, they would agree that it is.
Well, as Michelle, the teacher, said, you can separate the core from the testing, and I feel there's so much, I don't really have a problem with saying with the Common Core being taught. I think the way it's being taught, though, these formulaic responses, these rubrics, it's too much.
So what the Department of Education and PARC would tell you, and tell me, and tell all of us, is that the PARC assessment is intended to test students' mastery of the Common Core curriculum at each grade level. So
but that's
why
we don't even know if it's a valid test, because this is the very first year it's being given. We don't know enough about this test.
You're preaching to the choir, that's true. You're preaching to the choir.
Okay, what I'm saying is, you know this, so why are we still teaching to the test?
Because we're required by law.
To teach the test? You're
No,
required to give the test.
We're required to administer the test. We're required to teach the Common Core curriculum.
Right.
And we're required to administer the PARC assessment.
Right. But you don't have to teach. You can teach the Common Core, but don't teach to the test. You can do that.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Sharon Donald, 12 Sutton Place. 2 points. This quality education, which I know everyone here wants. And
I just want to share with you something that took place just last week. My son spent the entire week, he's in the 6th grade, working on his math packet, which comes in regardless of what the curriculum might be. And when I reviewed the math packet, from back to front, as I flip over it, the top page said 5th grade park prep. My son is in the 6th grade. I don't know why, I haven't heard back from the teacher yet. But I did send an email asking, why has a week been spent in the 5th grade curriculum in the 6th grade advanced math class? So I think that we need to look closely at what is being taught in this, under the pressure of having to follow Common Core. Because I find that really odd.
To that, I would also encourage you to just follow up with the building principal, and I'd be happy to do that as well. And that way, if you haven't received a response in a timely fashion, you can end up getting your questions answered. You're welcome.
Beth O'Donnell Fisher, 23 Manor Road. I came here with a lot of the same questions as others about what was going to be done for people refusing the park. I've written up a response to what I watched at the last board meeting, and I felt a lot of my concerns were addressed. But as we sort of circle back around, I think it's important that I read what I wrote. So at the last meeting, Mr. Quattrochi, you indicated that you felt that the tests didn't matter. I felt it was important to come here tonight and let you know how they do matter to us. The tests matter because Verona schools were not failing before the Common Core and Park arrived. Many would say we are failing now. We're failing students and destroying the trust between teachers, students, and parents. The tests are developmentally inappropriate, as are the Common Core standards from which they are based. One does not have to go very far into any of the grade level tests to see this. These tests are designed to frustrate and fail children. Our children are struggling and parents are stressed trying to support them at home. I can't tell you how many parents I have spoken to who have mentioned getting tutors, withdrawing from after-school activities that their students love, or wondering if their child has a learning disability because of these tests, the test prep, and the Common Core. The tests matter because we've spent massive amounts of money, which we talked about tonight, to upgrade our technology and purchase these tests. The tests matter because Verona teachers are trying to prep our kids for them. So we're not giving the message to our teachers that these don't matter. The teachers feel they matter, and they're going to factor into their evaluations. Our children are being told they need to do their best. And when their best isn't good enough, there are tears and frustration and cries of, I don't want to go to school anymore. The prep began the first week of school. Test prep is being embedded in the curriculum. It's being counted as grades towards marking period averages. The test matters because tremendous amounts of instructional time is being given over to prep, and others have spoken of that. We're losing out on arts, we're losing out on social studies, science, so much emphasis on ELA and math. The test matters because third graders who have never been taught to type will need to type fully edited essays while being subject to time limits. These children will have to navigate lengthy tests on a computer with an interface that is neither intuitive nor age-appropriate. The tests matter, and this is a point that I don't think anyone has spoken of tonight, because data will be collected from all of our children. Whether or not we agree with the tests or not, that data is going over to Pearson. And according to FERPA, any interested third party can get that data. And we don't even know exactly what is being collected from our children. Apparently, IEP and 504 information will be sent off with the park tests. There's also a concern that embedded within the park will be personal questions that will be directed at our students, and none of the administrators, teachers, or parents will be able to see these questions beforehand or report on them afterwards. The information will forever be associated with our children via their assigned personal information numbers. These tests matter because the trust between a student and a teacher will be lost when a child raises his or her hand during the park and asks the teacher for assistance, and the teacher cannot provide help. That trust may not be regained. The tests matter because everything in school is now geared towards one learning style, and that's the park and the Common Core. If a child has a learning difference or thinks outside the box, they feel like they no longer have a place or a chance of succeeding in our schools. The tests do matter to the citizens of Verona. They matter, and I ask the board to join with us in speaking out against all of these problems. And I think that's important that we do have a resolution so that we let the parents and the students of Verona know that these do matter to us.
No questions? Okay. Anybody else? One more?
I'll make it short and sweet. Karen Ivel, Harrison Street, and I don't want this necessarily to be an afterthought, but just thinking about children who have the learning disabilities, the challenges that they may face apart, even taking into account all that they may endure, and then also giving them the option if they do want to refuse, if the parents want to refuse for them. The right accommodation for child with special needs is factored into that. I know, it's something that you're thinking of.
That's a very fair thing that we should remind. We also should try to get the state to change so that when they report the academic progress of special needs students, they somehow distinguish between the kinds of needs the students have, rather than saying special needs are all one type of student, and measuring them all the same way, regardless of which sort of result, right?
Yeah, no, that's very smart.
Messy, frustrating. Best I can tell you, down Trenton, we get what we vote for, right? So, congratulations.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just speaking up for the, that population. Because it's just, with children who don't always have a voice, or feel very intimidated, or just don't know how to really advocate for themselves, so.
Absolutely. We're coming up with a way that we believe in parental rights inside. We absolutely believe that. At the same time, we are under obligation to carry out what is legislated. Right now, Mark is legislated. Not our idea to do it. It was up to us to do it tomorrow. I still think we would make the investment in technology and all the rest of that's the right thing to do. But we certainly wouldn't be preparing for the logistics of taking a test or we hope to that. The logistics are going to be difficult at best in good districts. They're going to be horrific in poorly run districts. It's just, it is. It's costly. Anyone else?
Kathy Bosco, 74 Harrison Street, completely unrelated. Your email from Friday about the 3 students that were approached while walking to school. Is the district going to do anything? Visit the schools, police officers visiting the schools to talk to the children, again, about stranger danger, or is it just an email going out? Because that happened on my street, and I noticed a police officer there this morning. Will there just be a police officer there today? Will it continue? Is anything going to be done?
It's going to continue. What we hope from sending that email out is that we alerted parents it's the right thing to do, that hopefully they have a conversation with their children. And what we're doing is looking into seeing where in our curriculum are we already talking about this with our kids, to how to handle these things appropriately and how to go to an adult when it does happen. But the immediate action would be for parents to have that immediate conversation with their children at home in a venue that's comfortable and safe for them, and how they are able to communicate most effectively with their children.
We also don't, in cooperation with the police, we also don't publicly talk about the various things that the police are doing. So, for example, there's a police car on your street today, and maybe not tomorrow. That's maybe a reason.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Right. Next meeting is on February 24th. We have a confidential session at 7 p.m. and public session at 8 p.m.